I saw her today at the reception, a glass of wine in her hands. I knew she was gonna meet her connection. At her feet was a footloose man. Now you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. I went down to the demonstration to get my fair share of abuse, singing we're gonna vent our frustration. If we don't, we're gonna blow a 50 amp fuse. And now you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. I went down to the Chelsea drugstore to get your prescription filled. I was standing in line with Mr. Jimmy, and man, did he look pretty ill. We decided that we would have a soda, my favorite flavor, cherry red. I sung my song to Mr. Jimmy, and he said one word to me, and that was dead. Yeah, and now you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can't always get what you want. Sometimes you might just get what you need, man. And so I have my very special guest, my great friend, who I've not even met in person yet, but I feel like I've known him a lifetime, and many lifetimes before that. The great Jordan from Waters Above Crypto. Jordan, man, podcast number 9. Let's talk about the apocalypse. Great to have you here, brother. Welcome to this segment, brother.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. That song was like making me think of just like me and you standing in a desert holding our lighters up while like the
yeah
while the whole world is exploding or something.
yeah exactly. That was I'm gonna leave that in the description. I found that just like 15 minutes ago. I'm like, what song am I gonna play? And that song popped in my head, and it just was so fitting. That's by the artist JNB 432, this young kid who plays acoustic stuff, the cover song from the Rolling Stones. And it's just I just think it's so fitting for this topic, because you know, you may not get what you want, man, what's coming down the pike. You know, and I think it's just very fitting. So here we are, podcast number 9, Jordan and myself, Logan. We are going to be your tour guides for however long we roll with. Nice to have all of you here. See many great faces and names. The Wolf Pack is here. And this, I got to pick this topic. Jordan got to pick the last one. I got to pick this one. And we had this conversation. The way we got this one, ladies and gentlemen, is we were on the phone talking, and having our hours of conversations like we typically do. And we ended up talking about the zombie apocalypse. And it was started to get funny. And then I'm just like, hey, this will probably be a good topic. I was going to name this, let's talk about the zombie apocalypse. Jordan, you ended up adding in some little emojis, the zombie emojis, when I posted it.
So fitting.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great how we come across these topic ideas when we're just, on these phone calls, and it's the best way to do life, not to script it, but just allow it, let it happen.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So,
and I think specifically what was going on was there was this show that was recommended to me by a couple people that I trusted in, and I don't watch TV and I don't really take too much time to consume too much content. I'm spending most of my time working on my art, but I was watching Resident Evil, the newest show on Netflix. So there might be multiple versions of it, but this was like a newer one that was just released. And within the first 30 seconds of the show, they talk about how this zombie apocalypse started in 2022. So I immediately texted you. I was like, dude, have you seen this show, man?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about that maybe later, the specifics, like some of the things that I was finding in it. But I watched the whole season, and predictive programming to the max.
Yeah. So one of my subscribers, a big shout out to Jill Rowland, she sent me a message. She's like, "Oh, have you seen Moonfall?" And I'm like, I kind of got bored, so I turned it off. She's like, "You got to watch it talks about Yaldabaoth and Sophia," and so I was checking. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay.
You know what? I saw the trailer, and it was packed full of like CGI, and it just looked really expensive, and I don't know, I'm not really into that stuff. I know like where it fits in for us decoders and where it could provide value. But yeah, I looked at the trailer, and it was like cheesy, so I was like, I don't know if I want to take my time on this one.
Yeah. Well, it's all, I mean, even the director was tied to the moon card. It's just hilarious how I don't even think these people even know they're scripted and coded. But I was going to break down, I broke down Moonfall a little bit. But anyway, it was really interesting how the whole concept of that movie was basically human beings build AI, and AI becomes conscious of itself, and it realizes that it needs to exterminate the human being species. So
what a unique idea.
Right, I know. So unique. I know. So unique.
Well, it's interesting because around the time that started to be promoted, that movie Moonfall, that cryptocurrency Terra Luna just completely dropped out and went to pretty much zero. And it was one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies, and it happened all around the lunar eclipse. So it's just beautiful to watch these, astrological components happen in the market. And some of the people that have doubt in this, and they come to my work and they still continue to have doubt, perhaps they like a component of my work, but they don't fully understand all the aspects of my work. And, then we have what happened with Terra Luna, and it's just like, come on, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Right on the lunar eclipse, come on.
Yep.
Right around the time of Moonfall being released on the world stage.
Yep. Yeah, it's all coming to it. It's really interesting. I don't know about you, but when I'm decoding, people, places, and things, especially when I start decoding people's bios and stuff, the current age they're at right now is like nugget after nugget. Like these numbers that are coming up at what age they're at in this current moment when I'm decoding them have very, very big significance to them. And to me, it just tells the story that what's coming down the pike for, the upcoming days ahead of us, the fall and the winter, it's going to be a doozy, I think.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get a lot into that. And definitely to preface this where I stand, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe we align a lot in this. whatever we're going to share today, it's not based in fear. The word apocalypse essentially means the unveiling or the uncovering. And we'll get into the definitions and breakdowns in a little bit. But more importantly, it's just, this is not going to be a fear-based podcast. At least that's not my vibe. And all of the conversations that I've had with you have been just beautiful, because we never go down that path of, pushing any scare tactics on each other or anything like that. It's always abundance. It's never in lack. So we're going to try to keep that vibe. At least that's always been the way that I've analyzed these types of big words like apocalypse. They always come with the narrative that's given to us popularly, and of course we have all the movies, Hollywood behind it, etc. Even the main characters on the world stage, people like Elon Musk pushing these ideas of sentient AI, and this isn't for getting scared. This is about how do we act now, how do we take focused action, and how do we operate in love.
So true, man. I totally concur. We are on the same page, because I am not fear-based. I am all about, as most of you know that follow I'm all about, neutrality and slightly love and being slightly alkaline and not having any of this fear. I mean, Jason Bashir's, he says it like, hey, don't be the collective is really thriving in fear. And you got to step away from that. No matter what, because what's coming is what's coming. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. I think that's, when I was growing up through the church, being heavily indoctrinated in the church, the Jehovah's Witness organization, apocalypse to me and all the pictures and the four horsemen and all the revelation interpretations, it was heavily based on fear, and then like trying to make it, like, are you going to make it? Do you have the mark on your forehead? And then, because there's obviously that alludes to death, and it could be that there could be a lot of people that, may end up dying, but the apocalypse, as you said, the definition just means the great reveal. That's what it means. And I think a lot of people are not going to accept the reveal. They're not going to accept it because it will have to shatter their current beliefs right now.
Yeah, and the collective, the masses, they operate under limited beliefs, and that is the main premise behind how they take action. And when you have limited belief in self and only belief externally, meaning belief in the system itself, you're kind of setting yourself up for what you just explained earlier behind the savior complex or the boogeyman waiting around the corner. It's either or. And operating in the now is always fear-based, this fear of God. And we don't need to get religious, but of course, this is what that word was typically, utilized in Revelation, and describing, this word and its utility and how it will be this reckoning. And a lot of people in, the collective are fearful of whatever's to come. And that's actually why they operate the way they do in the present moment. You saw what happened with the C word and how everyone shifted and became so fear-based, and lack, just lack became like the mantra of man for 2 years straight. And I always look at those moments as an opportunity for self and an opportunity for all of us when energy needs to go somewhere. So when the masses decide to not utilize their positive energy, it's going to you if you decide, if you make the choice. So anything that comes tomorrow or the day after, a month from today or 2 years, doesn't really matter what the timeline is, but it's all about how you operate in this present moment and how you're kind of interacting with what you are in this present moment. Because when that time comes, if you don't know who you are or what you are, well then how is it going to go for you?
Yep, for sure. I mean, that whole thing that happened, that took a lot of people's lives and sheltered them for 2 years. I mean, look, I've been to prison. I've actually been to prison. And then now all of you listening to this, welcome to being in prison. Now you know what it feels like to be in prison. You don't have to go to prison and get a sentence to actually experience prison. You experienced it when we went through that whole shebang and shebacle on the world stage. That's prison. And a lot of people actually were really confined to certain spaces. And this, to me, was the precursor to the final stage of this, or the final stage to something else. Obviously, these are gradients. So when I say final, there is no final. I'm just using that adjective to describe what's coming down. But, the great reveal, and you got to really be prepared, as Jordan said, because I think there's going to be a lot of Trojan horses being thrown out there. That's what I think. I think there's going to be a lot of Trojan horses being things that are not real, things that look real that are not real. You know,
bait.
Yep. What'd you say?
I said bait.
Bait. Yeah. And, you know, if you can just detach as much as you can personally from the main stage, like I know you, Jordan, you're like me, man. I don't really pay attention. A lot of things like, hey, did you hear about this? No, I don't pay attention to the mainstream anymore. It's just a shit show. It's a movie. It's theater. They're playing out their roles. They're acting. I'm not interested in their movie because I don't get to be a star in their movie. I'm just an extra. So I want to be a star in my own movie, and that way I can be the best experience I can be. And so therefore, going through this apocalypse, what's coming down the pike, it's important for you to detach from as much of the mainstream as you can so you can experience, because again, no matter what, ladies and gentlemen, you can't prepare for this. You know, I don't know about any of you, but there was a stage in my life many years ago where I was into the pole shift. And I was into that, and I'm like, oh man, and then the poles are going to shift, and then there could be great devastation on Earth. And then I went through, like, I got to get out of LA because LA is not a good city. And, you know, there was fear basing in my life. And so I've released all that. And I realized that no matter what, I am not going to change the collective. You know, Jason Bashir does it really well. That's what he says. You will not change the collective on the world stage. You're not going to change it. And you ain't going to change nature, because you can go yell at the sun all you want, tell it to go away, and it ain't going to listen to you. You know? So we just got to become prepared. And I think preparation is ridding yourself of all the parasites. We just did a podcast with Syncretism Society in Santos just on Saturday, and it was on getting rid of parasites, not just physically, mental parasites.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's profound. I think that, you know, the preparation is kind of knowing what you are and where you stand on what you've been doing. And a lot of people, they live vicariously through whatever is going on externally. And the type of self that hears about what's happening and they get prepared for the food shortage or the pole shift or whatever, this is not taking action based on how you feel. It's taking action based on how other people feel. And that's not intuition. And intuition is only unlocked through love. So when you're fear-based, it's very, very difficult for you to make moves that are based on your code. You're always going to try to be controlling. And you know, control is one of those things that we really have to ask ourselves, like, has it been working? All the times that we want to be controlling, has it ever worked? Or is it just us going against our intuition? And I believe that one of the things that I've tapped in, at least, and perhaps you've had moments like this in your life, I feel like every geographical location that I ever get to is always right after the place I last was just becoming really bad. I don't know if that makes much sense, but essentially, like, I just lived in Australia for like 9 months, and I left right during the pandemic. And I literally was telling everyone I knew, probably 6 months before the pandemic happened, that, hey, the world's about to change, and no one believed me. And it reminded me, like, you know, when you have access to what's to come, you're going to be ridiculed, you're going to be laughed at, you're not going to be taken seriously. But now it's amazing because my mom, whenever she talks with me, she always brings up that moment of like the 3 months, 4 months leading to February of 2020, and how she didn't take me seriously. And she wished she did, because she owned a business and it got shut down and etc. But this, again, I was operating in intuition. I wasn't operating in fear. I wasn't worried. I just knew I knew what I had to do. And what I had to do needed to be getting out of wherever I was.
Whew, yeah. I would just encourage all of you just to take on the notion, maybe just listen to what Jordan just said and apply that to your life, and realize, and this is my opinion, you are exactly where you need to be right now. Exactly. So wherever you're living, you're supposed to be there. If you're looking at, like Jordan said, I was in Australia and I left and I kind of dodged a bullet, if that's how we kind of call that. Well, you know, you're following your script. And you...
Yeah, I dodged a 50 caliber.
Yeah, big time.
Because that place turned into a fucking, you know, concentration camp.
It did.
I was in Melbourne, by the way. That was the most serious place to be in the whole world, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was nonsense.
Yeah.
Absolute nonsense.
Yep.
And I told people it would go that way. And they were like, what do you mean? Why? I was like, look at the behavior of the people that surround you. All you need to do in this life to get ahead is shut up and observe.
That's it.
If you just learn how to respond instead of react, you will become so in tune with what you are. And if you pay more attention just to what's happening, pay attention to your surroundings, like a deer. When you see an animal in the wild, like it's not it's not judging, the predator around the corner. It's just doing what it has to do to get, into a mode of survival, and it acts accordingly. And the adrenaline kicks in, and it is what it is. Whatever happens after that moment, it is what it is. But it's all about the observation.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. A lot of people, most people in the world today are so stuck in Maya, the illusion. They're so enamored by life and what it has to bring to them and how they can get more and more and more and collect and just live from that scarcity. And they have they got 10 cars in the garage and they're still living a life of scarcity. That's those times, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that it's not okay it's not okay to have those things. But what I'm saying is that right now, the work that I'm doing, the work that I'm surrounding myself, Jordan and Jason Bashir's and Santos and Syncretism Society and Harry and Nigel and, the people that I kind of surround, this is a time for you individually listening to this to start shedding the crap that's in your life. If you fancy theology, the story about Lot and his wife, and the story of that was they had to flee Sodom and Gomorrah before it was going to get destroyed. And if the price that they would pay is you'd be turned into a pillar of salt if you went back. And that's what his wife did. She was so tied to her material possessions, she couldn't leave. She was looking at the city burning in the background, and yet she couldn't break or sever the ties. These are allegories. The story for you is, are you willing to walk away from all the stuff you've collected in your life at just a blink's notice with this upcoming reset / apocalypse, great awakening? Are you willing to do that? And this is a time to, this is why, I'm right now I'm going through a detox. I have a group of people. I have the Green Box Detox. Some of you listening here are actually on that right now. It's a 22-day detox, detoxing the physical body. Why am I doing this? Well, because I'm supposed to do it. I'm leading it up. Why? Because I'm preparing, I'm helping other people prepare their bodies for what may end up coming down the pike for them, whatever that may mean. And then we just did this parasitic podcast with Santos and Syncretism just on Saturday, and David was on, and what a great mind he is, and we were talking about getting rid of the parasites in your life. And that's the preparing for the upcoming apocalypse, the great awakening. Because if your mind is filled with junk and garbage, you may not be able to see the great awakening coming down the pike. What are your thoughts on that, Jordan?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And a lot of the time with my live streams on Fridays, sometimes people will ask me about food or, diet and that kind of stuff. And all of my responses are based in what gives the lightest body, what makes the vessel the lightest. And I'm well aware that, there's a lot of information out there about how to consume, but there's very little information out there about how to become how to create the purest vessel. And they don't really add up to a lot of people because of vanity. I'll say what I'll say, and then somebody will respond back about muscle mass, or they'll respond back about protein. And I'm like, this isn't my answer doesn't, the world doesn't give a shit about your muscle mass. Like, when things get rough, like the least of your concerns will be your protein shake, okay? Or how many pull-ups you can do. So it's cute that you know this, but we need to be much more aware here that the information that I'm sharing, it's not about how to become, Mr. Olympia. It's about how do you become a light body.
Yeah.
And I know what it takes. And I've also said this to many people who are scared of like food shortages and all of this, and they talk about how, grand their food storage is. And I asked them, how many days have you gone without eating and practicing this? And they said, I've never gone a full day. And I'm like, well, maybe you want to work on that, because I've gone 7 days without eating. I've gone multiple times, 3 days without eating or drinking water. So 72-hour dry fasts.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to like look at my body and see a skeleton. I know what it's like to see, to see your cheeks sunken in, but I also know what that gives you in regards to the energy you have. I don't look like that anymore, but it's something that I've pushed myself to, because I know that I don't need groceries. I know that I don't need my next meal. And if you're somebody who thinks you need your next meal, then you don't know what the human body is capable of. This human body is incredible. It is beautiful and it is perfect, and it could do a lot more than you'd imagine. And just practicing fasting, I believe, could unlock, this power within you to let you know how you're capable of a lot more than anyone or anything has ever told you can be.
Yeah, well said, man. I mean, it's true. I was laughing. Who cares how many pull-ups you can do? Speaking from experience on that, I mean, being a competitive bodybuilder, I used to be a lot bigger, more muscle. It's been this transmutation for me personally has been the biggest dragon slayer of them all for me, and the dragon being the ego, because you conform to a certain way of life to live in the matrix, to live in Maya, to live in the world, to live in life in this game, and you get a certain level of consciousness and people look at you a certain way. And when you're bigger, when you have more muscles, when you're prettier, when you have longer hair, when you got bigger boobs, whatever, you may get a different response from people. I see like ladies that get the boob jobs, I see what kind of reactions they get from people. Mm-hmm. It's way different than people that don't, right?
Yeah, it's just all prana. It's all just prana. It's energy.
That's it. That's all it. And we just got to really be honest and authentic with ourselves, and that's all ego based. It's okay. You can't get rid of the ego. I mean, I'm using my ego to talk right now. I'm sitting in my chair looking at the screen, talking to you guys and gals. So the ego is necessary to survive in this avatar, but you want to raise the frequency and become the spirit, more spirit-like. And that's, to me, is what the apocalypse means, the great reveal. No matter what the actual prize will be, no matter what the great reveal will be, what really matters is what you will be when that freaking curtain goes down. What are you going to be? Yeah. What are you going to be? Yep. So I think it's preparation.
You can't be ready for the apocalypse until you honor your ego. I think like ego is the most bastardized term I've ever explored in my process of knowing. And I've spoke about it actually a little bit recently, a couple days ago, on the Discord that's part of my Patreon. But anyways, like I was speaking about it from a lens that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. And I don't know if I've ever spoke with you about ego and how I feel about it, but I've just come to this place where I've noticed that the same way it's indoctrinated in school and just the modern definitions of ego, simultaneously with the way that the whole spiritual community and the new age have perpetuated almost an identical idea of what ego is. It's told me, well, that's the popular opinion on it. And I remember my whole life growing up, and maybe you've gone through this too in your process, because you were part of church and you had to break free from that. But I had a lot of people in my life that would call me, like, say I'm self-centered, say that I have a huge ego and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, when I was 18 or whatever, I went to more countries than people have visited towns or cities. And I'm like, well, if this is what an ego is, like if I got promoted at this age and I'm working above people who are 30 years older than me, what is going on here? Is it that people are not doers and anyone who does is called egoic? Because that seems to be what's going on.
Yeah.
It seems to be anyone who is a doer is called someone who has a huge ego. And it made me question that a lot, See, name calling is a very quick way of showing where you're at in your process, Yeah. It's a very quick way of showing where you are. So whenever you name call, always do it from a positive perspective. I name call you all the time. I call you great. I think you're incredible. I think you're the best decoder on the internet. I say that all the time. If you're going to name call, do it to honor somebody. But now when people say anything about me with ego, I'm like, oh, thank you. I take it as a compliment. I'm like, yes. Yeah. Because I know what my life has become. I'm like, look at what I'm doing. What have you done? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a great way to kind of put somebody back in their body. because they want to kind of astral project into this God. But it's like, how can you be a God without forgiveness? How could you be a God without awareness? You don't have any awareness if you're looking at another doer or another creator and you're speaking negatively. For me, I honor all creators.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing to do. Yeah, you are a true gem, which is why, you know, I've become so fond of your voice, your work, your research. You know, you know, you put out gold all the time. I'm really kind of, you know, it's great to listen to. I mean, your last podcast, folks, if you haven't listened to Jordan's podcast with Jason Brashears from Archaics, the last one they just did, please go to Archaics YouTube channel, give him some love, subscribe to his channel, and listen to these two guys talk about the simulation and, you know, all the other stuff that you talked about. Because, man, this to me, anyway, I mean, if we're gonna go really, you know, tie it down here.
Go where you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, you know, we always do that anyway. But yeah. I honestly feel the great reveal is going to be you're in a movie. That's the great reveal. That's it. You're in a movie, dude.
Action.
Huh?
I said lights, camera, action.
Lights, camera, action. That's it. What do you mean I'm in a movie? Yeah. So are you being an extra in somebody else's movie, or are you being a star in your own? And I think that's going to be a big piece of the great reveal. You're in a simulation. What does a simulation mean? You're in a movie. You're in a movie. That's it. You're in the Truman Show. You know, you're in a movie and you're playing out your part, and you're exactly where you need to be right now. There are no mistakes, no accidents. Everything just is. And if you're willing to step outside the movie that's playing, the collective, as Brashears likes to call it, if you're willing to detach from that, well, then you become the star in your own movie. But if you're not, if you're still turning on the news and watching it, and people say, I don't have a television, but you're on freaking YouTube watching the same channel. I mean, come on, man. Like, that stuff is ridiculous. Just detaching from the mainstream is either not watching it at all, or if you're going to check it out just to see what kind of shit show comedy they got going on, you tune into it and you realize that's a movie. It's like when you turn on Netflix. Do you turn on Netflix because you want to keep up with the Joneses? Do you turn it on? Do you turn on Amazon Prime or a show to make sure that you know what's going on in society today? No, because you know it's not real. Okay. Well, the great reveal, ladies and gentlemen, part of it is knowing that when you turn into one of these news stations, it's exactly the same rules. The same rules apply. It's not real. That's it. That's the great reveal from my standpoint. But that's just one layer of it.
No, I mean, I think it's like that's so true. And I was talking with my mom one time, and she was complaining a little bit and saying this and that about like what was going on in the world. And I told her, I was like, well, I just want you to know, like, when you leave your front door every day, you can become an actor. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, I know you don't know this, but like, you can choose to become an actor. Like, you are an actor anyways. But
Yep.
when you become aware of what I'm saying, now you learn how to like tip your hat and be like, good day, sir. You know, you learn how to just like exist amongst it. Like, I know what I am. So when I go out in the world, I don't talk with people with the stuff that I talk with the people who tune into my channel. Like, I'm just like, I'm a head nodder. You know, I get through what I need to get through because I know where it's going to go. And for me, my prana is expensive. You know, like for me, my prana is like, poof. It's valuable, man. Like, I know what I'm worth, and I know that every exchange that I have, I want to give my all, but I have to remind myself, like, this is a movie. And a lot of the people that I'm going to interact with when I leave my front door, they're not aware of this movie. Like, I know it is, though. And I need to watch myself, because when you're driving in traffic and you start pointing fingers and saying, you know, fuck this guy and this guy cut me off, and you're getting all aggressive and emotional and shit, you don't even know that you're actually astral projecting right there. You're entering someone else's reality, and you like think you know their intentions. You think you are them.
Yeah.
You think that you're God, but you're the type of God that wants to control. You're not actually divine.
Yeah.
Divine is forgiveness. Divine is compassion. And to me, like, the apocalypse happens when we enter a genuine and selfless state compassion. And I know a lot of people don't like my view on selfless, which is selfish, but I think the whole world has gone to shit really because we're so we operate in a state that has no self, and that is selfless. and everything is being done to protect each other and to keep each other safe, stay 6 feet away, wear 2 masks, that's you being extremely selfish with this idea that it's going to somehow help, and you give up self completely. And that's literally the whole determining factor behind Zionism and germ theory and why this world operates the way that it does. So I'll restate that the apocalypse happens when we enter a genuine and selfless state of compassion, and not the standard definition of compassion, but literally the ability to astral project into someone else and feel what they feel, to understand their actions and mind, and not judge them, but truly understand them. And that comes back to love is allowing. Like, if I had to describe what that mantra is of love is allowing, it's about the utility of compassion.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Utility is important. You like that word. You use that word utility quite a bit.
Because it matters, because it's how we take something and we apply it. Like, what does all your knowledge matter if you're not doing shit?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how many books you read.
Yeah.
Like, your life isn't going to be determined by books. It's not going to be determined by how much knowledge you have. It's not going to be determined by your IQ or how smart you are.
Yeah.
Your life is determined by how much you've done, how much output, what have you done today?
Right.
You know, you could sit inside alone and read every book in the world. You can know the Bible from front to back, but what have you done with that Bible?
Yeah.
Like, a library is just a library. That's why it's called a library. The lie, not truth.
Yeah.
It literally starts out with not truth.
Yeah.
Library.
Yeah.
Because it's irrelevant. Like, books are literally irrelevant until they have application, until they have utility.
Yep.
So we need to be able to tap into that. That's a huge aspect of my upcoming course, by the way. Like, how do we apply what we know? Because I know I'm attracting people who know a lot. I'm attracting a lot of people with a lot of information, a lot of data, but information is not wisdom. And to me, wisdom is applied knowledge. It's gnosis. It's applied inner knowing. So that's what separates the wheat from the chaff. That's what separates the great from the mediocre. You know, and when you actually learn about what greatness and success is, you learn that it's about specialization. It's not about being a jack of all trades. It's about being excellent in one thing. And what should that one thing be? It should be the thing that makes you happy.
Yeah.
It should be the thing that makes you feel bliss.
Yep.
Now, if you could name 5 things that you like, then there must be one of those 5 things that you really like. And if you really like that and you're not figuring out a way to survive off of that thing, well, then the odds are you just have a lot of information. You have a lot of, understanding, but you haven't figured out a way to take action on that thing. And the only thing holding you back from being able to take action on that thing is your limited beliefs.
Yeah.
You have a limited belief in that thing. If it's art, if it's painting, if it's finger painting, if you're going to look me in the eyes and say that you can't figure out a way to survive off of finger painting, then I'm going to look at you and say you have limited beliefs. And I love you and I believe in you and I think you could do anything. And the more you tell me you can't, the more I'll tell you you can. But until you want to wake the fuck up and do, how are you going to change?
Yeah. No, totally. I think it's, I think it's just really important to become the best version of yourself, which is, my most popular video. Thanks everybody for watching it. How to decode yourself, an hour and 5 minutes of 10 layers to figure out what your purpose is here. And that it kind of goes into this here. Like, everybody listening to this right now, you have a purpose, you have a responsibility, you have a job. And maybe your job and responsibility isn't to cleanse yourself. Maybe you just want to play the game. Maybe you just want to go in there and defend the things in this reality that you feel need defending. Maybe you need to go in there and break down and expose the apex predators. Maybe that's what you incarnated to do. So just keep going doing that, right? But if you're someone who resonates with like what Jordan and I are all about, is like, if everybody just stopped paying attention to the mainstream, you know what would happen to it? It would poof, it would disappear. It wouldn't do it overnight, but it would, because in this reality, the way magic works by energy exchange. That's it. And if enough people focus their intent or their energy on something, it gives this energy that you're focusing upon, it gives it gas, it gives it a life form. You're feeding the nucleus. So if everybody stopped doing that and then turned their attention onto themselves and like, hey, I'm a creator. I'm a god, man. I'm a powerhouse. I can create whatever I want. And they started to take all that attention that they used to give to the mainstream or they used to give to fighting the collective, and they turned it to themselves and projects and building communities, which is what a lot of people are doing right now. They're building, communities, sovereign communities. They're building, communities out there that are free from this kind of stuff. This is what needs to get done in the Great Reveal, is detaching completely from what has been popular on the world stage. If you want to jump in and play the game and you want to go push up and be part of the collective and defend that, and you're that kind of person, you feel like that's your job, then go do that. Maybe that's what you incarnated for. If we go by the rules of reincarnation and we never get out of this game, let's just hypothetically, just for fun, I'm not going to say this is true, but let's hypothetically say that we never get out of this game. You just get reincarnated back in and you level up or you level down. That's it. Well, maybe you're somebody who is in politics and you defend that. Well, it makes a difference. Voting makes a difference. And you got to vote, the president and we need a Republican in, and that makes a difference. But yeah, it will make a difference in Maya, on the world stage, yes. But if you're somebody who incarnated and you've shed all those layers, you've done the work maybe over many, many lifetimes, and you're kind of like, I'm bored of that. That's boring. I want something new. And, maybe you follow the law of one material, and the law of one material is graduation from 3 density to 5 density. Again, these are concepts I can't prove. These are just theoretical. But hypothetically, you're here now. You're kind of that old soul. You're ready to shed. You're into this kind of stuff of like, hey, we're living in a simulation. It's an augmented reality, and we're in a movie. And that movie's kind of boring. Like, I'm bored with that movie. I don't want to play that movie anymore, and I want to create something new. And so if you're in that space, like I am, like Jordan is, if we all come together and we create from a place of non-fear, then the apex predators that are fear-based, they will start to slowly dissipate and they will just be removed. Because that's how this game works. So you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to come on and say, well, my way's the right way. And that's kind of old news. If you feel like you got to go out there and play the game and go defend and all that, go do that. That's all good. Just go do you and go be the best person you can be in that reality. And you're going to sometimes you don't get what you want, you get what you need. So I know what my worth is, like Jordan. Like I'm not going to go play a game because they don't deserve my energy. That's pretty much, it's very simple, right? And Jordan, you've done a great job at describing that of like, hey, my freaking gas is expensive, and you're not going to siphon it, and you certainly, you don't deserve to get it, right?
Yeah, and when you tell that to people, they're like, yo, like, I'm not ready for you. And I'm like, that's true. You're not ready for me. Like, and it like really crumbles people down. But when you tell somebody that like this isn't gonna happen today, like I'm not gonna let you parasite me, it really just dissolves them. It kind of, we've seen this in movies before, you know what I mean? Like we saw it in the movie The Matrix when Neo was in that like epic fighting scene at the very end with Agent Smith, and he's just like, I'm gonna stop fighting this guy, and he just fucking explodes.
Yeah,
like, yo, there's no one to fight here.
That's
like
right.
If you give somebody your gasoline, like first of all, you paid for that, so now you're giving it away free of charge. And like, gratis doesn't work too well in like the etheric realm. Like you think it's working out in your favor. I'm not talking about money here. I'm talking about true currency. I'm talking about the currency of creative energy, the stuff that brought you here.
Yeah.
The stuff that brought you here. Okay, this is deep. So when you tell people, when you don't engage with people who want to bring you down to that level, talking about politics or Anthony Fauci or fucking whatever, even people that call me, that pay for consultation calls and they want to talk with me about this type of stuff, like Bill Gates, I'm like, we're not going to do this today. Like, this isn't going to happen. What are you calling me for? What are you about? What do you want to figure out about yourself? And they're like, and I'm like, this is always about you. You are the universe. Like, I don't give a shit about fucking Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
He is irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
You called me. You called me.
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab didn't call me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we walk away from that phone call. It had more value. It's priceless. It's a priceless phone call because it didn't go through the route of drama and theatrics and finger pointing. It had utility. It actually changed them. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to keep up with the promotion of the New World Order and the Illuminati. There's plenty of people out there doing that. If they want to do that, like you said, congratulations.
Yep.
But I'm here to disregard them. I'm here to do what Neo did to Agent Smith and just look at him and say, I love you. But I'm going to stop fighting now.
Yeah.
And the moment you do that, they obliterate. They don't exist anymore.
That's it.
And that really changed my life. When I decided to do that, I didn't feel like I was in a game anymore. I felt like I was playing. And I talked about this in my last live stream. There's a huge difference between the game and playing.
Yeah.
The game is for adults. Playing is what you see children doing. Then the children get taught the game, and then you have all this baggage that comes along with it.
Yeah.
That's the indoctrination. That's what we shouldn't be doing to children. Some of us are just born with like antivirus software, though, like me, and I know you. Yes, you were put through the ringer of, religion, but it didn't. It eventually stopped working. It wore down, And this is something that I believe anyone who's listening to this today, they could resonate with. Whatever age that happened to you at, it's irrelevant. It was with you before you got here is the bigger point. Yeah. I always look at that. We're just gods with amnesia.
Yep. Trying to figure out, what it is our place is. And again, ladies and gentlemen, when you detach from the mainstream, and you get rid of the parasitic kind of things that are feeding off of you, both mental and physical, you now have a playing field that is more honest and authentic. And that allows you to take a look at things in a much different perspective. So, look, I have supported, I'm not going to say proven, I have supported personally over 300 videos now showing that this reality is a completely scripted one. It's a completely scripted one. And if you can kind of get into that, if you can kind of like look at these notions and then you start to decode yourself, you'll start to see it in your own personal life. And perhaps the great awakening, the reset, the apocalypse coming down is you realizing that, wow, the great reveal will be that, I'm not part of this whole reality that's been laid out for us, and maybe, how do you graduate? How do you graduate out of this reality? Is there such a thing as, because again, there's no proof that we can get out of this game. We may end up just getting recycled back in. And I suggested to my subscribers that the best thing for you to do is figure out what you're doing here and then start checking off the list of being a good person. You don't need to go fight and try to, if you jump into the game, if you start to go jump back into the game and play the game, that game is that the whole apocalypse we're talking about, that game is starting to be dismantled, just so you know. So what you're doing when you jump in and start playing it, you're playing something that's inevitably is going to be smashed. There's not even any reason to go and play it. Play your own game.
It's like you're playing Grand Theft Auto and you want to steal a car and there's like a Lamborghini, a Porsche, and then like a 1986, like whatever. And you go steal.
Yeah, exactly.
You steal the shittiest car that's parked.
Yeah.
It's like, no, bro, I'm taking that Lamborghini, bro.
Yeah.
I'm whipping this around. Like, yeah. That's hilarious. I love looking at life through like the most childish lenses because at least it makes me laugh.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's kind of shift on some numerology, shall we? Like the word and what the word has to say through the numbers and stuff like that. So I like going to the Greek because that's kind of where it came from, the New Testament, Revelation, meaning the same thing as apocalypse. Through the Greek, if you just go to the cryptypical Greek, it's 135. What's really interesting is that, it's 135. And most of you know now the 35 is tied to the word simulation. So is the great reveal going to tell you, is it finally going to be revealed that you're living in a simulation? And that's 135. Is that what's coming down the pike for all of us? What's your thoughts on that, Jordan? With the numbers. What do you get from the numbers? I mean, it is 40 in Chaldean, but depending on what cipher you use.
Yeah, and I actually purposefully didn't get into the decoding side of it, but you brought up something in what you just said that is bridging between an idea that I had that I might have spoken about in like a couple of live streams, but in the work of Jason over at Archaics, he talks about the Phoenix phenomenon, and I didn't interview him. I'm not an interviewer. I did a podcast with him the first time.
I think you did a good job, man.
Thank you. I don't think everyone agrees on that, but we did the first time around. I wanted to lay down a little bit of a foundation or groundwork behind what the simulation theory is and also the Phoenix phenomenon. And actually, through a conversation that I had with him on a private phone call before we even did that podcast publicly, I had this kind of feeling that the end or the climax of what this physical reality is, which Jason is calling the Phoenix phenomenon, I actually envision us being part of the collective Phoenix. Like we are the Phoenix. I am part of the Phoenix. I'm like a feather in its wing. Yep. And because of studying alchemy and kind of looking at it through a more esoteric perspective, like the awareness of what this is, which you call the simulation, the simulacra, that is absolutely a part of it. Like you need to be aware first, then you could start to take action, and you could, and in my vision, the action taking is about becoming fearless, and about becoming fearless through the lenses of awareness of what you are. And once you know that you're an immortal, you're a being of infinite light, infinite consciousness, then how could this be a bad thing? You start to look at it as an opportunity. And I do agree that the awareness of what this is, the simulation, is the gate. It's like the key in the lock. And then the turning of the key, the action, is what you will do about it. What are you going to do with this awareness? And that's always what matters, because in my second podcast that I did with Jason, I wanted to kind of feel out where he was at with his subscriber group and even my subscribers who are like fearful of tomorrow. They're worried about the end times. They're worried about the apocalypse. And a lot of them reject simulation theory solely because they believe that it's not a simulation. And that, to me, it's not about the tug of war of belief. It's about like just analyzing what it is and how it applies to you. And for me, it resonates one way, and I allow it to resonate for other people in whatever way they would like. But regardless, we need to have some sort of action taking, whether you believe it's a simulation or you don't. Yep. You still need to apply action, especially if you're fearful. So, but from the numerological perspective, I went and quickly took the word apocalypse in ancient Greek, and I typed that into the Greek ciphers. And in Greek ordinal, I'm getting 134. And that's just the anagram of pi. And I think that's really interesting.
How you getting 134? You're probably missing a digit because it's 135. Your A is probably off. Yeah, it doesn't pick up the A. Check your first letter. If you copied and pasted it, it's 135.
But more importantly, I mean, I definitely aligned with that. And I was actually studying some Greek prefixes and suffixes a couple weeks back when I was designing one of the parts of my upcoming course, my expansion mastermind. And with this word apocalypse, you have broken down into ap or apo, which means away from, or to separate, the farthest point away from. Yeah. And then you have kalip, which literally means cover. So another way of just taking that, apocalypse, that actually means like cover, right? Or to remove the cover of. And then cis as a suffix meaning action, or process. So it literally means like the process of uncovering or unveiling. It's a process, it's a procedure. And that to me really like added another layer, because most people just call it the uncovering or the unveiling, right? But this process now, it makes it alchemical. It makes it something where like, okay, well, what is that process? And now you're talking about this awareness of the simulation. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I think Go a little bit more with that. Expand on that a little bit more, because I think you're onto something here with that.
Yeah, so like I've read a more esoteric definition of apocalypse where it essentially means a disclosure of something that is hidden from the majority of mankind. So a disclosure of something that's hidden from the masses. And it happens in an era that is dominated by falsehood and misconception. So, I mean, sounds like now, right?
Yeah.
So, but we have to kind of like analyze it from a perspective of it's not necessarily a bad thing, you know? Like lies aren't bad. Lies are an opportunity for truth. And without lies, there would be no discernment. So it's like, even that is its own separate conversation. Like there's a reason why your parents lie to you about Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, and they're doing it because they don't want to waste the energy to tell you the truth. But it doesn't, if Santa Claus existed, it doesn't even matter, So is it a bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're in that age right now, an era that is dominated by falsehood and misconception. And me and you spoke a lot about this in the past with our podcast, specifically influence and deception.
Deception. Yep. I remember that.
Right. So that's like, that kind of leads to this definition, of what I just said. So it's a disclosure of something hidden from the majority of mankind. And if I had to break down the definition of apocalypse based on the Greek prefix and suffix and the translation, it would essentially mean the process of uncovering or unveiling.
Yeah.
It's not the actual final moment though. It is just what takes us there. And that is so much more important. Like when you're on your way to the bar or school or whatever, you don't consider, like, you have point A to point B, but what is the process that takes you there?
Yeah.
And this is where the conversation actually becomes like quite interesting, is now we're aware that there is this kind of like, there's these chapters, that there's this ongoing procedure that takes us to this outcome. And the apocalypse isn't a single day. It's not 3 days.
Yep.
It could be 3,000 years for all we know.
Yep. That leads into, let's kind of talk a little bit about, a lot of your work on the Shemitah and the Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year coming up in September, late September, because these numbers, when you as a decoder, when you start to look at the numbers on the calendar and how the Gregorian count, because some people say, the Gregorian calendar was for this and it doesn't matter if you think it's changed or they took off 1,000 years, or they didn't do anything. Okay, this reality scripted and it's all playing out exactly the way it's supposed to play out, right? And that's why there's nothing to fear, folks. But the calendars will coincide with one another. The Egyptian calendar, I mentioned to you, Jordan, this year in the Egyptian calendar, it's actually a prime number. And then now we're moving into the 5,783rd year on the Jewish calendar, or the Hebrew calendar, in September. And that is a prime number, not just any prime number, the 759th prime number. And, 59 is tied to the game of life in numerology. So what is 759? Well, 7 is obviously a big marker for the endings and completions. I know 9 is the repeater number, but 7 is typically that number that it's the fourth prime number as well, which runs the box. But 7 is typically that number that runs the numbering system itself. It's the 7 chakras, 7 days of the week, 7 colors of the rainbow, et cetera, et cetera. So they have a lot of merit. So it's 759, and that's the prime number for 5,783 for Rosh Hashanah coming up. It is the 50th Golden Jubilee year. Keep in mind the way this organization goes about their business is they go in these structures. And the Shemitah is all about two main things that I see. Number one, forgiving debts. How would we apply that principle in the great apocalypse coming? How big is the debt in the United States right now? And the United States is in bed with Israel, so you kind of do your own math there. Will the great apocalypse coming, are we going to see the transition into cryptocurrency? I mean, Jordan, you're huge into that. And then the other big one for me is for the Shemitah and the Golden Jubilee is the agriculture being affected.
Yeah.
Right. And then where you get the food shortages and people start freaking out about that. What's your take on all this stuff? Because I know you're big into the Rosh Hashanah and Shemitah. You use it a lot with your numbering systems.
Yeah. And I mean, it's important because who else is doing it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of odd how overlooked it is. Even in my work, I've started to like learn more and more about it the more I step away from just specifically what I focus on and look into it from, more of the geopolitical side and what it's done with the world wars and transitions of power and the fall of empires. But one of the things numerologically that's fascinating about this Hebrew year of 5,783, and that being the 759th prime number, as you already exposed, 7 plus 5 plus 9 also equals 21, and 21 connects back to Saturn. So it's like you can't escape the Saturn character and its connection to time. And yeah, you brought up the Jubilee, and in my belief, well, in my research at least, I do think that after Rosh Hashanah into the 27th of September this year, we're going to move into the true Jubilee, meaning the actionable Jubilee. And what comes of that? I mean, you asked some questions and you brought up the truth of the debt and all of that. I mean, a lot of these things that are going on, it's really hard to determine because we have two camps of thought here. And at least I'm speaking from the lenses of the truth community. You have one group of people who believes that China is going to become this superpower and take over, and then you have another group of people that they kind of feel as if it'll move into a really draconian blockchain technology, maybe one world currency, stable coin kind of deal, perhaps tied to the SDR, special drawing rights. Where I sit on all of this is that I personally think America is just fine. I think that China is not powerful at all. And I think that everything that's popular is wrong. So most people don't even know about the word Shemitah. Most people don't even know about the Jubilee. And a lot of people are aware that America has seemed to be kind of unscathed through a lot of these things that have happened in the world over the last two popular wars, at least before the war on terror. During this time frame of the early 1900s, where they were implementing a lot of these socialist regimes within America, like we have the Federal Reserve System, changing the world reserve currency to be the petrodollar, etc. I mean, it's such an interesting thing to see where America has fit into all of this and where Europe has fit into all of this, and China, and how out of nowhere people have started to quickly assume that China is going to somehow become powerful. But in my opinion, China is at the weakest they've ever been, actually. And anyone who's in a power position in China isn't actually in China. They're just working for the United Nations, and most of them are deployed. But China itself is in the process of crumbling to pieces, way more hardcore than what we've seen in Canada or what we've seen in Britain or any of that.
Right.
So I know they're crumbling to pieces because they had to engineer a food shortage and a faulty pandemic like out of nowhere to just sort of bring some order, and it really backfired on them. Anyone who knows people who actually live in China will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The nation is in shambles. You can't become a powerhouse if you're in shambles. You can't become a powerhouse if you barely have calories to consume. So Ray Dalio specifically has been perpetuating this idea in the economic sphere that China is going to become this superpower. That guy's a shill, and I don't believe anything he says. And he's using data that is not actually backed by anything, discussing the Dutch and moving into British, etc. Like, it's his story, history, his story. It's a narrative. It's whatever we're taught. But what we do have, what's documented, is we actually can prove that. We could prove that with facts. So I'm just looking at it from a lens that is going the opposite direction of what most people see happening. But I see things like pandemics not working anymore. I think they're going to shift to a new thing, and they're gonna do a test run of something that I believe is called the World Debt Reset Program. And that's not going to happen in America soon. It will happen in other nations first, other nations that it's much easier to get away with. And they've already been piloting this program in some of Europe, like in Italy, where they're giving people an opportunity to sign up for a specific program. It'll give them subsidized food. This is the most fucked up thing you could ever do in this world, is make it so that people who go forth with some specific paperwork that provides a privilege will be able to access cheaper food than other people, because it'll create a civil war.
Yeah. Well, that may be coming down the pike anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, why do civil wars happen? Most people don't even know the truth about the Civil War, the Revolutionary War that happened in the United States of America. We're told the story that we're given with history, but we don't really know too much about it, the actual truth of the matter. So it's difficult to utilize the past and stuff that has been popularized and agreed upon by everyone, and very few people have gone out of their way to actually learn, the alternate perspective of it, because history is written by the winners.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this game is nonstop. It never ends. It keeps going. So there's no such thing as death. And if there is such a thing as getting out of this game, great. If not, you get recycled back in. Make sure you level up. That's it. And how do you level up? Well, I think part of leveling up and maybe moving into a higher density is not partaking in the game that's of the lower density. What you're seeing on the world stage and all the nonsense and craziness, you're seeing all that. That's low density. It's low frequency. Fear frequency is low frequency. If you want to partake in that kind of stuff, you'll become that kind of stuff. You'll resonate with that kind of stuff. You'll become that, and then you'll end up partaking in that kind of sour fruit, so to speak. So, taking your stand, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't mean you have to get out there and blow your horn and go fight and be the resistance and all this nonsense. That's my belief anyway. And that's not being a pussy. That's not like, that's putting your sword down and saying, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play the game anymore, man. That's all this means is, and I showed this in my Society of Jesus Decoded. I showed everybody that it's the 5 of swords or the 5 of spades, which is tied to the game, and the game needs players. This game needs players. So if you're done playing, a lot of you don't want to come back. Like if you had the option to leave this game through this great reveal, we may see a rapture. That may be, we were talking about this, Jordan, right? Let's kind of shift into that, right? The rapture. Because, it's interesting, and I'm not saying this is the end all. I'm just highlighting this because I'm a fan of comics and, the Marvel Studios. But I watched Endgame again for like the 5th time. And in that movie, they're showing that there are people just disappear off the planet. Families just poof, they're gone. And then there's the final war. And the war in that movie is, it appears that at the very end, Thanos and the bad guys have won. And the destiny of Thanos is to eliminate, the population. And then at the very end of it, when it looks like, that's it, here comes the good guys through the portals. And now you have this huge fight and the good guys fighting the bad guys. And that's the way it always is, ladies. And duality is, and the game resets it, maybe pieces restored. And you move to the golden age. And then the golden age has its say in everything, where maybe you use sound levitation. Maybe you use telekinesis. Maybe you don't have to eat anymore. Santos he's tired of eating. He's so funny, man. He was so animated the other night. He's like, I'm so over it. He's like, I have to do this and take this.
Once you learn what your body's capable of, you're like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to transcend.
It hurts people to hear that, though, because they're like, but cheeseburgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do without my cake?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So perhaps the great reveal for you is, if you resonate, again, you got to go deep within and you got to say, okay, where am I at in my life right now? What do I want to believe? What do I want to adopt as my reality? And if you're drawn towards, detoxing, like I said, I'm doing a detox right now with about 30 other people, where they're on day 10 right now of 21 days, 22 days. And they're physically detoxing the parasites from their body and toxins and all that stuff. What does that do to the body? It makes you level up. Your vibration, your frequency goes up. So that means that you will shed a layer. And then now mentally you want to detox. What does it mean to mentally detox? Are there parasites that hang out in the mental realm? I think so. And the transmission of these parasites will probably be through the energy that you see with light. And parasites hide in light. They're in light. And when they come through in light and they download into your biofield, your energy, everything's just frequency. So forget about the physicality of things. It's the frequency of your reality and everything that you've adopted. And essentially, You want to shed these parasites in the mind. You want to shed these parasites in your biofield. That's beliefs. You got to shed some of these beliefs. And when you shed some of these beliefs, you become more free, more clear, lighter. And, you know, we did a great podcast with Roberto talking about Toltec wisdom, and he's talking about moving into the crystalline state. The next stage of evolution for mankind, to graduate, you move into a crystalline state, essentially shedding the physical body. Now, again, I don't know, we can't prove this, but what a great thing to look forward to, perhaps. Would you want to be someone to do that? And who's to say you can't, right? So would you take that on? Would you want to move out of this three-dimensional density that's, you know, pretty much the physical experience? Would you move into a crystalline state, into the 5D, and maybe move into a higher frequency? Is that what the great reveal is? Well, you got to become prepared for that. You have to prepare for that. So if you attach yourself to Maya and the illusion, and you want to go hang out with Mr. Smiths and go defend what if you want to be a Mr. Smith and be an agent and go defend and go push and fight the resistance, and it's their fault, and do it. If you want to go do that and you feel like that's your job, then go do it. God bless you, man. I don't care. It's not my journey. But if you're at this stage of your evolution like Jordan and I have, and you're about unification and purification, well, it takes a lot of guts and glory to do that, just like it takes guts and glory to go play the game. But you got to make your make your choice.
Equally as expensive.
Equally
as expensive.
Yeah, equally as expensive.
I mean, if not more, actually, to be your true, ruthless, genuine self, like in public. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like, yo, it makes you a superhero, because you notice that, like, wow, you're not giving in. You know, you're not being agreeable. You're being self, and to tap into higher self and to really be you, it's going to become an expensive transaction when you're dealing with simple people.
Yep.
And they're not bad people. Like, you know, this whole idea that NPCs are like bad or they're awful or whatever, that's nonsense. You know, NPCs are like hair that falls out of your head, like a loose hair. Like, you don't like fucking freak out over a single hair coming out when you brush your hair. It just is.
Yeah.
It just is. Like, you know, take it. One of the things that I always say to help people kind of recenter themselves in their judgmental ways is look at everyone as an opportunity for you. And that's why I always say, you know, trust everyone, but only believe in yourself. Because in order to access abundance, you need to trust all the people all the players in your game are there to provide a currency to you, not money, but any currency. It could be love, it could be companionship, it could be. So whether they're a completely soulless, you know, empty vessel. I mean, some people, like, their mothers are just asleep and they have to deal with that, you know, their best friend, their brother, maybe even their girlfriend, whatever it is. I know this because I get the emails. People being like, oh my God, I was married to this person, and, you know, COVID happened, and now they're like, I just know I'm awake and they're asleep, and what do I do? Like, do I get a divorce? I'm like, I see these emails, man. Maybe even you do. So
I have gotten emails from people.
Right. And it's actually helped me become more softer, and I've tapped into a whole new like place. I've moved on from the judgment now because I have all these experiences of other people's experiences being shared with me, and I'm super grateful for it. And like I know this is my purpose, you know, to help in that regard. But I want people to know, like, you know, everyone is an opportunity for you. If you believe that somebody's holding you back, that's actually your limited belief in what you're capable of with who you surround yourself with. Yep. And it's very popular. It's a very popular thing to say we're the product of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. Yes, I agree with that. But me and you, and I believe the people who are tuning into this, you are divergence. You can be at a crack house watching people shoot up, and you're just operating at a different frequency. You can be in a war zone and somehow just exist in peace. When you tap into that frequency, when you know like what's going on here, you could actually shapeshift. Like, people make that a negative word. They're like, oh, Hillary Clinton, the lizards. It's like, no, bro. Like, shape-shifting is when you could go anywhere at any time, in any place, in any scenario, and if it's negative, positive, whatever, and you become the magician. Yeah. If you know how to actually operate in that frequency, when you learn how to do that, now you know you've really leveled up. Like, who the fuck cares about tomorrow? Learn how to level up in the now.
Yep. Yep, leveling up in the now is the most critical part of this journey at this point for the upcoming, whatever's coming down the pike this coming fall. Jordan, you study the markets so very much. We can kind of talk about some finances a little bit if you don't mind. And this is very speculative. Obviously, this is not to give anybody any advice. This whole podcast is just our opinions. My opinion may differ from Jordan's, but we were talking about the Shemitah and perhaps the reset of the financial system and all that kind of stuff. What do you think with crypto? I mean, since you're so heavily involved in it, and that's kind of really where you got started, where do you see all of that playing out with this upcoming apocalypse towards perhaps the end of this year or the fall of this year?
Well, I definitely believe that we are going to move into a blockchain-based economy globally. I think that the new economy is blockchain, and that does involve cryptocurrency. The outcome that I see at play is a slow rollout of a digital fiat, like a fiat-like stable coin. So something that's fixed at a unit to make it simple for everyone. Like, because if I take $1 and I go over to Zimbabwe, it's like $30,000. They're gonna work on creating a unified unit, which will be all kept under this World Economic Forum, World Bank, Federal Reserve, all the central banking systems. They're working on a technological layer to implement, which will essentially unify a stable coin. So a digital stable coin, no cash. This is me being complex, and I'll be simple for a moment and say a cashless society where all accounts will be kept on a digital ledger with no physical currency tied to it at all. So no coinage and no cash. And this will be, how the process moves forward and the year that it moves forward, I'm not entirely sure of. I could speculate that it'll probably be in some places well before 2025, but I think 2024 is where it's going to actually start to become noticeable. And they're going to use this end of the Shemitah and the two eclipses that happen in October and November as a time frame to create a catastrophic event financially that will give them the chaos to provide the order of this upcoming system. So the way it works is they crash the two towers to bring you your new solution, and that's essentially what I see happening in November, early November, around the eclipse, the lunar eclipse. And that's going to be fucked up because a lot of people aren't ready for that switch. And I believe everyone who follows my work has been hearing me drill this into them to be ready for this. And I don't think it's going to be something where all bank accounts go to zero and all that shit. I know people are postulating that idea, but people need to understand if they were to wipe out all the bank accounts, that would not work in the favor of the apex predator, because you would have riots and just the military would not be able to control that. And the military would have their bank accounts wiped out as well, which would make it so what are they fighting for? What are they here to protect?
Yeah.
The only reason the military does what they do is because they're compensated. Okay. And a lot of the military would lose their shit if this moment happened. So they're not going to wipe everyone's bank accounts. That would be ridiculous. It's not going to go that way. They're not just going to wipe everything out. I don't see that being a strategic move. Okay. The elite like to do things in a way that it affects people, but it's not the entire collective like that. They give opportunity, right? Even with the pandemic, look at the way the pandemic went. We had a bull market. So while all these businesses were shut down and all these people were
crypto
losing
goes
everything,
to the moon.
Anyone who was involved in any investment, any tech stock, any fucking stock at all, and crypto, we're talking about parabolic advance in the market. So they give you a leak to get in to protect yourself. They did the same thing with 9/11, with the dot-com bubble before it happened. This is how they operate. They give opportunity. The people who run the show, they know how to play this game, and it's through emotion. But I don't want to get too off track. Essentially, I think that we've had a couple conversations talking about November. Yep. And I would love to hear some of your thoughts, but I do align with you in conversations that we've had that if there's gonna be something that happens that is recognized globally, just like COVID, it will happen in November. Yeah, that's kind of like the piece that I have, because that's how it went in 08. That's how it went in 01. That's, it's always around that transition into Tishri, the Hebrew month of Tishri.
Yeah. 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 I mean, if you take astrology into this, November 8th is last year, November 8th of last year was the highest Bitcoin ever got. 67,000, I think it was. Is that what it was?
So it hit the all-time high on the 10th.
Oh, the 10th.
Which is special because,
I thought it was the 8th. I thought it was the 8th. Okay.
No, but it hit it on the 10th at $69,000.
69,000, of course, the yin yang. Why wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So ever since that happened, I started shifting my content over to including that number as an important number because I don't think that was by accident.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Well, if you look into astrology, and if you look to Vedic astrology, you can use Western if you want, but looking at the Vedic chart for November 8th, which is the total lunar eclipse, it's a heavy one. You have Rahu and Ketu, which I feel, the nodes I feel are kind of the game changers in this reality. You have Rahu in the sign of Aries, which is, fire and number one, maybe planting the seed, but it's the big tail is in the nakshakras, which are the 28 lunar mansions. It's in this nakshakra called Baharani, and Baharani, it's literally the nakshakra that's called the god of death. It's called Yama. It's Baharani, and this is the god that basically upholds the code of social morality, and it's like the finisher, the binder. So, and it's two. It's the second nakshakra, which obviously two means duality. So is this pointing to something very big that will happen come November? I mean, this chart is insane. I mean, this is where Rahu and Ketu are at. Even if you go back weeks or move forward weeks, you're still going to have that. I mean, with this Rahu and Bharani in this nakshakra, the moon's right there as well, of course, because that's what causes the total lunar eclipse is Rahu. And then you have Uranus right there as well, which is, the one that doesn't go by any rules at all. Uranus is father sky, and it's tied to the god Anu, and it's the father of Kronos. And so when you have these three coming together in this nakshakra during November 8th of the total lunar eclipse, there's something to be said here. It is in the 5th house as well. And the 5th house runs manifestations, it runs money, it runs stocks, it runs crypto. It's in the sign of Leo by default, which is the sun. So you get Rahu and the moon there, and across the way is the sun in the sign of Libra with Ketu. And you get Venus and Mercury there as well in the 16th nakshakra, but it's in the sign of Libra, and Libra is the 7th sign, and it's the scales of justice. So you have the energy of the sun and Ketu, the dragon's tail, kind of where the Kundalini starts, and it moves and goes all the way across the way to the 2nd nakshakra in Bharani, and where Rahu and the total lunar eclipse happens. This is a setup, if for energetically anyway, if you're a fan of astrology, to be absolutely massive change here. With this total lunar eclipse coming up in November. And I mean, at what time here? Well, according to the charts in Western now, you're going to get 12:30 a.m. November 8th is when the total lunar eclipse, right around that time is when the total lunar eclipse is going to happen. And man, Rahu is, essentially is the cause of everything. So these are big signs right here, man. These are big signs to me as an astrologer for this kind of stuff.
Ooh.
Yep. Yeah, it's big. That's just the Vedic chart. If I look at the Western, you're going to see a little bit of a different variation. Saturn's there in the 24th nakshakra. Of course, Saturn being in the sign of Aquarius right now. We are in the age of Aquarius. In the Vedic, it's not going to be. It's still going to be in the age of Capricorn, but you're going to have Saturn there, and Saturn, of course, being tied to Satoshi and Bitcoin itself. So there's something, both these great systems, they tell us a lot about how this reality works. I feel like they're kind of the dictators of all that kind of stuff. And then let's not forget the cards of illumination. November 7th and November 8th, when the total lunar eclipse is kind of happening, is the King of Clubs and the Queen of Clubs. The King of Clubs is the card that was the card for September 11th. September 11th is the King of Clubs card. So these two cards right here are big big time cards for perhaps this total lunar eclipse. So these are just some of the layers, man, from the mystical platforms that may just indeed tell us what's going to happen moving forward here. So some big time stuff, man.
Massive. Yeah, so massive. There's so much going on with that. I mean, also, if you take from the last day of Rosh Hashanah, the Tuesday, the 27th of September, and you push that over to the starting time of the lunar eclipse on the 7th of November, you get 1 month and 11 days, the 111. There's so many numerological connections specifically to this eclipse and as well the date of Rosh Hashanah. So yeah, I'm putting all my focus on those two dates, the 26th of September and the 8th of November. And of course, a window around that time because that's just the way time works. So, yep, massive. I released something earlier today where I was talking about a bigger connection with the eclipse, and very soon, actually, like a date that's happening very soon, which let me just quickly connect these two. But it's around the 5th of August. When you connect it back to the start of the Rosh Hashanah, it's putting you at about 333 days. It's something like that. It was a really interesting connection that we're gonna have, but really I'm not really putting too much juice into August. It's mostly September.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be in the U.S. in August and September, and then I come back here right before Rosh Hashanah, right back to Mexico. I'll be here, but yeah, you know, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. You know, it's so crazy. Like my code and my script, just for fun, right? So I had booked my ticket and to come back here to Mexico, and I got an email like 2 weeks ago, and they just the flight's been canceled, and we had to book you on another one. And yeah, and I'm like, okay. And it was just like I'm leaving like 3 hours later, but the the flight number was 759.
No way.
Yeah, I swear to God, dude.
Oh shit, that's fucking crazy.
It's crazy, dude. I'm telling you.
That is crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and I
Holy
leave.
Shit.
Yeah, I leave. I know.
That's like so fascinating,
right?
Out of all the numbers, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and this is why, like, you know, I was like, I don't know, I'm so in tune with this reality. I like, for me anyway, this is just me owning my space. This is not bragging or whatever. I'm so in tune with this code right now that
hey, Logan, keep going. I'm gonna be right back. Just 1 second. Okay,
cool.
Keep talking though.
Yeah, cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, like for me personally, I'm so in tune with this code right now that I don't have to pick selected dates on the calendar to release my decodes. They come out exactly how they're supposed to. All my decodes are improv. I never edit them to get them at specific timestamps. Those are all improv. So, and the more and more I get in tune with this reality and become one with it, it starts to reveal itself more and more to me. And so what you're seeing and how my personality is and my demeanor, I feel like that's the source code using me as the instrument to talk to all of you. And then, you know, again, you got to make the truth your own. You got to figure out what you feel is going to be right for you. Because there's gradients to this reality. And again, all of us here playing out this role, we all have specific jobs and responsibilities and roles. And there's no need to like, try to put your foot in the ground and push against people and say, because I used to be this way for a long time, and I had to learn. It's like, there's no reason to debate anybody. Just do you. Just, when you go follow sports is typically a game where you have to score something. That's how you win. Like if it's 0-0, it's a tie, and that doesn't make your record better. You want to win the game. Typically winning is scoring, putting points on the board. When you're in defense mode, there's no points that get put on the board. So you want to be on offense as much as you can. And offense to me, from my state of consciousness right now, from going through all these trials and tribulations, all my decoding that I've been doing for a very long time, my baptisms of fire, these dark nights of the soul, been through detoxing. I'm telling you, like, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to Jordan. You don't have to listen to, Jason from Archaics. You don't have to listen to anybody that you feel has influenced you. What you got to do is you got to condense all this information down, and you got to make the truth your own. Because if we're talking about the apocalypse just means the great reveal. Something's going to be revealed in our reality. And it just may be that your reveal is going to be different than mine. And why would you want to try to go defend your reveal? That's the ego, by the way. You see, your ego is what's going to want to go fight. The ego is what wants to go to war. That's all fear, ego-based information. Energy. That is what, see, love doesn't go to war. Okay? The spirit doesn't need anything. It just laughs. It's the ego that wants to go to war. It's the ego that wants to go push against. It's the ego that wants to go fight back. That's what the ego is. And, the ego is necessary, of course, in your life, in my life. But it's your spirit. If in these concepts, I'm not saying they're real and true and they're absolutes. I'm just giving you some theoretical things to think about. But the spirit, in a sense, love, in a sense, doesn't want to go to war, doesn't need to go to war, doesn't care about going to war. You don't have a bunch of soldiers going to war and they're giving each other hugs. No, they're shooting guns and firing tanks and dropping bombs and missiles. That's not love energy, folks. So if you feel like love is the answer and love is the way, well, it doesn't mean you just become, you just lay down everything and just don't do anything. No, create from a space of love, create from a space of, being lukewarm. Lukewarm to me is the way to win the game. That's a blending of both black and white and unifying the two together. And unification is where it's at. That's where you're going to get your purification. And if you can come from that space, that means you don't need to explain yourself to anybody. You don't need to fight, debate. Debating is a waste of time. All it does is just take two energies, they smash together, and they create something that is fear-based. That's what debating does. If it's a healthy debate, it's a little different. But if you get two people arguing on the stage and they're firing against each other, there's this energy, just like, in CERN, they smash together atoms to create artificial elements. Some of these elements on the periodic table are created by smashing together two different elements. And it's now a synthetic element. But you see, the natural way of it is if you're going to take two fear energies defending each other's stance and bring them together, you then create an energy that gives an offspring that's fear-based. It can't be, you're not going to create a love-based energy, an offspring, by two people going head-to-head battling on defending their position. That's a fact. That's not even my opinion. That's straight up fact. So there's no reason to get out there and to defend. Find your tribe right now. Find your tribe. And then just stick with your tribe. And ignore the people that are not part of that tribe anymore. Because it will be part of this great revealing. Jordan, are you back with us?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Find your tribe right now. If you're here, I would assume this is part of your tribe. But you don't have to believe everything that I say. And I would probably think you don't believe everything I say. That's totally fine. And Jordan as well. People.
This earthly experience isn't for us to agree with each other. It's for us to learn each other.
Yeah, that's it. Bingo. Beautiful. Exactly. And unification.
That's where compassion comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So if there's a way to get out of this game, ladies and gentlemen, if there is, I say if, I can tell you right now, playing the game and defending it, you're not going to get out doing that.
I think we have a lesson in front of us all the time of what getting out of the game is. It's looking at a child play. It's looking at a deer run across, the forest. It's looking at looking at your dog roll around in front of its dog bowl, waiting for you to give it some food. It's just exists. Like, it's just this beautiful expression of purity. Like, I don't think there's any thing to try to win here, or anything to beat, or anything to, somehow escape. I think it's just the awareness of what it is enough to return back to a pure form. And that's really the way that I've started to look at life. And that's the way that I've transmuted this whole process into, how do I be here in this physical place and honor this physical place, and not want so badly for what's to come, rather just be okay with what's happening now. Because I gotta admit, when you actually tap into that energy, life is pretty lit. Like, life is lit. There's nothing that sucks about life except for what you think sucks. So once you become a magician of this reality, you start to see that, like, you can make conscious choices to make this life much better. Like if somebody's a parent right now and you look into the eyes of your children and you're trying to tell me that life sucks right now, then your priorities are fucked.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so like this life doesn't suck. It's just your measurement system of life is all jacked up because you believe too much in this Maya, and you're unable to tap into gratitude with the things you already have. Like we have everything we need. We just lack the ability to focus onto the things we have.
Yep. Yeah, I mean the thing is, you know, for me anyway, personally, right? It's the great reveal. It has so many facets to it. Personally, I think you're going to realize you're in a movie, and that's going to be the greatest reveal of all. But nonetheless, how are you preparing for that? And then is the movie going to change? Is it going to change like it always does? Is it going to reset like it always does? I feel like life is cyclical. I think the change is people taking their kids out of school and homeschooling them. That's making change. That you don't have to say shit. Just like, hey, kids, you're going to be going to school at home now. That's making a change without having to go and defend, not going to the school and say, you're wrong and you're indoctrinating my kids and you're doing, no, just like, okay, I'm taking my kids out. That's it. There's my answer, right? That's your great apocalypse.
Respond instead of react, right?
That's it, man. Instead of reacting, just be more action-based.
Just do.
Yeah. You know, and you know, it's like, people ask me, did you get the thing? You know, that big thing that a lot of people got. You know, did you get that thing?
Did you get Osiris's phallus right inside of the bicep?
Yeah, and I was like, no. And that to me not doing it is enough for me to make my stand. That's it. I don't need to go tell people and fight against it. I didn't get it. That's enough for me to say that that's my line in the sand. That's me, right? So homeschooling your kids, that's not fighting the school system. That's saying your system sucks. I don't like it anymore, and I'm not going to use it anymore. And if everybody just pulled their kids out of school, guess what happened to the school system? It would disintegrate because it needs kids to go to have a school. But you know, most people in this reality are asleep. The game needs players. The game requires people to stick to the Mr. Smith story, stick to the mainstream. And then they put in front of them something to react to. So they may have the teacher say, okay, kids, we're going to read this book on whatever, on having sex with a male or something, something crazy. That's like, something that's not part of this reality in the sense of, what we've been taught. And then the parents are like, well, you're reading what book and you're 13? Oh, no, that's not going to happen.
I love how like in Seattle and shit, they're like having like trannies read books to like 5-year-olds. It's like, is that really what we need right now in this world? Like, is that your opportunity to make things better? Is that how we propel the world in the right direction? Like, I don't care what people decide to do with their genitalia or what wig they want to wear. Yep. But are you really making a statement of change by having somebody who, and like what's interesting too is the example they have of somebody who is deciding to dress like that is the most extreme version of it.
Yep.
It's like somebody that's like, like a dude with hairy legs who's 6'4", jacked, wearing a fucking wig and a mini skirt. It's like, that's not even a woman.
Yeah. Yeah,
women don't even dress like that.
Yeah,
like when you see a woman, it doesn't look extreme like that. So like you can tell that they're trying to perpetuate some sort of like, demoralization at a very young age. And if people don't resonate with that, that's an opportunity for you to be like, well, this is only something that could happen inside of this indoctrination camp. This can't happen if I was in control of what my kid was learning. And it's like, this is where we've gotten in this world, and that for me is through selfishness. It's not through being genuinely selfless, because we believe that this type of teaching to children is what's necessary to somehow like perpetuate balance in the way that they perceive life, and it's not, because we're giving them unbalanced examples of reality. Like, again, we're cool with this, like it's fine, there's nothing wrong with the way people decide to engage with people on a sexual level, but when we're talking about the education of children, like where does that fit in? Where does that fit in? If we were to tell the same individual who agrees with that, like, should we teach a 5-year-old about Jesus Christ and the Genesis story? They'd be like, fuck no.
I think.
But wait, why no though? Why wouldn't you be cool with that? And then they would give an example that would literally prove your point in the other direction. It's extreme, and you don't believe in it. And because you lack the belief in it, that like that algorithm, the way that all adds up into becoming some sort of like calculation, we can't all agree on that. So again, as a parent who believes in, your truth, and you have children, like, you shouldn't be having your kids in a situation where everything they're learning and everything that's happening for them is the complete polar opposite of what you align with.
Yeah, especially if you're a parent and you were raised, if you're a parent now, you were raised with a different set of circumstances with the public school systems, and it's not knocking this, not what they teach, and it's not even, it's not even a degradation towards any kind of person that chooses to be attracted to whatever or have sex with whatever. It's all neutrality. It's like, if you want to go do that, that's fine. That's your journey. It's whatever. But do you want to have your kids involved with that kind of stuff? Like, this is the stuff that, is a part of this great reveal in the apocalypse. It's like, if you don't agree with what's being taught at the school system, then yank your kids out. It's that simple, right? Rather than trying to go into a school meeting and say, yeah, well, I don't like the way your teacher put that book there. And like, again, you can see the collective, you see where it's going. And it's just like,
this is a prime example of how expensive truth is. Because when we're aware of truth, I meet a lot of people that are parents that are like, I can't take my kids out of school. I can't do this. I can't do that. Like, they're operating in lack, and they're willing to have their kids suffer in this like indoctrination camp because of their lack. The kid has no opportunity really. If it's 5, 6, 7, like, what is it going to do? It's going to do whatever you tell it to do, and it's going to go wherever you bring it.
Yep.
So if you're the one who's playing God here, and you're operating under the state of lack, well, you're going to give that energy and that frequency to your children. You're going to bring them up with that energy, and if you really love somebody, there's no conditions. If you were at the brink of dying, you would do anything in that moment to make it work. So under lesser conditions, why don't we operate into that same energy? One of the things that I think we could take away from this whole conversation is, how do I provide urgency in the present moment? How do I actually see a way of tapping into my truth and providing some urgency for it? Because when you really, really love something, when you really believe in something, it doesn't wait. You don't say, I'm going to schedule it 4 days from now. You do it now. Yeah. And if you really love your children, you really believe in, your truths, then you would treat them similarly. But a lot of people, they just fold and they give up and they say, well, it's not that bad. And when they come home, they spend time with me so I could help. No, that's ridiculous. You're aware of lies, and you're aware of the perpetuation of lies historically, and it being plugged into the soft skulls of children all day, and you don't agree with it, but yet you still go forth with it. It's like when people learn about holidays and how most holidays are just, ritualistic Baal worship rituals, rituals of Moloch. They learn the truth. They know what, Christmas is all about, but then they still practice it.
Yep.
Like, this doesn't fucking make any sense. Like, you're aware that Christmas is and I don't want to say Satanist, because that's nonsense. It's really Baal and Moloch and these more like, anyways, my point being is that when they become aware of the truth, they decide to go against it because they believe the kids will have a better time. But the kids don't know until you teach them. Like, the kids don't know what chicken nuggets taste like until you put it in their mouth.
Yeah.
So if you want your kids to eat properly, stop giving them fucking chicken nuggets and give them real food. And they will never know what chicken nuggets even taste like. And if you have an issue with the school giving them chicken nuggets, then that's your choice. You could pull them out as easily as you put them in. Yeah. Really what this all adds up to is aware parents need to start taking action, because otherwise you're just being a parasite to your own children.
Well said on that. That's part of the upcoming reset as well. It's you got to draw your line in the sand, ladies and gentlemen. And if you got kids, you got to, how much do they mean to you? And like you said, and I'm not a parent, so like, you wouldn't understand, Logan. I wouldn't, because I don't have kids. But if I had a kid, I would do whatever it takes to not put them in a system that I don't believe in. Right. And that's just because, well, you don't understand. I got to put food on the table, and that's the only way that I could, you can figure it out. There's got to be a way to figure it out if you want it bad enough. Right. And again, this is just me being very speculative on this, but in the same sense, homeschooling your children is maybe part of your source code. If you're doing that right now, you're supposed to be doing that. And if you're doing it, the main reason why you're doing it is because you don't believe in what the school system's teaching. I would assume that's the case, right? But you got to take in consideration, ladies and gentlemen, if you believe in the cyclical nature of this reality, you're in the Kali Yuga. You're in the dark age right now. That's what you're in. And, will it get better? Are we destined to, Jason Bashir thinks 2040 is the Phoenix event. That doesn't mean that that's the day to look forward to and nothing's going to change in between now and then. We've been talking about, let's talk about the apocalypse. I think a major part of that is right now, coming up into the fall and into the winter of this year, and major change is coming down the pike. And there are going to be a lot of changes, I think, moving forward in our reality as we shift into these different layers of our lives. Even astrology, if you look at the nakshatra in the Vedic astrology, you have the age of Pisces, and as it shifts into the age of Aquarius, it moves through this Purva 25 nakshatra. So we're essentially gradienting into this age of Aquarius. I don't even know if we're there yet, if we're already in it, but nonetheless, I think it's safe to say that we're there. We might as well just say we're there, whether we're not there yet or almost there or we're there already. This is why you're seeing all this havoc take place and you're having all this information being revealed, because Aquarian age is all about I know. So that means that the great reveal in the apocalypse, that's what it means. Apocalypse means revealing. And what does the age of Aquarius mean? I know. So there will be nothing you will not know.
It's also about the ownership of I know, meaning you don't blame.
Yep.
That's a huge piece that I think is important to add. This period right now is a time for everyone who's listening to this to stop pointing fingers. And anyone that you interact with that points fingers, even if they're a content creator, that's a choice that you're making. This is not a time to point fingers and to be playing the blame game. That's bullshit.
Yeah, that's out.
This is a time to take ownership of your truth and to operate under that. And if you can tap into what I'm saying and actually take an inventory of where you're at with this and take an inventory of people that you have in your reality, in your life, you could really see where the dead weight is, and you could see the people that perhaps were influencing you. Were they influencing you to actually become higher self, or were they influencing you to keep you down there, operating in those lower chakras?
Yeah. I wish people would take into consideration how the chakras work, because you have, the hellish regions, chakra 1, 2, and 3, and the midway point, the heart chakra, which is, home base. And then you have the heavenly realms, chakra 5, 6, and 7. This is your duality playing out. Your spirit and your dragon, your ego constantly having a push-pull symbiotic relationship. And it's never ending as you're here in this avatar being a human being. It's inevitable that you will use your lower chakras. That's where, all the great meme is like, in heaven, all the interesting people are missing. So, and that's, that's because, that's what makes this game fun, is that you have these Mr. Smiths out on the world. You go out into the world stage and you're like, you look right now, you go to mainstream news and you look at it like, how the hell did this happen? Why is this even happening? And then you got to throw into the mix, like, okay, we're living in a movie, and we know that there's things that happen in the mainstream and they don't really happen. Mm-hmm. Those are called false flags, right? So if you believe that those happen, how do you determine which one is real and which one's not? How do you make that determination? Where do you draw the line? And it just leads me into the same.
Remember what I said? I said this a little bit earlier about how lies are good. Lies are good because the false flag being a lie is one of the number one things that woke you all up.
Yep.
When I ask everyone, when did you remember your moment where you really shifted? And they're like 9/11. So it's like, okay, let me get this straight. The false flag and the lies and all that, you hate that, you despise it, but that was the moment that, flicked you on the forehead and said, hey, inner child, get up.
Yep.
You should honor that fucking moment. You should be so happy of it. I am so happy of all the darkness and all the, all of those things that happened, because it really allowed me to see it from a different perspective. I was able to actually zoom out and say, wow, all the times that I was lied to, I could have analyzed it from a different perspective. I actually could have zoomed out and said to myself, wow, this was the opportunity for me. This was the moment where the apocalypse started. You know, the apocalypse starts when you wake up. The apocalypse doesn't happen because of anything external. It's a self, it's a within. Yeah. It's when you access gnosis. It's when you access that inner child within you. This thing that was always there that you were just having an issue tapping into. I always look at it as such. I don't think enlightenment is some leveling up game. I think it's a realization.
Yeah, so true. I think that's a great way to put it there. And you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, the finger pointing, the blame game, that's out, folks. In this reality, in this group here, you know, if Jordan and I, whatever, I mean, as we're just solo human beings having a human being experience just like you don't have to agree with that. But in my belief and Jordan beliefs, the blame game, all that kind of stuff, the finger pointing, that means you haven't figured out how this reality works yet. If you're still out there fighting against this,
you're not willing to take, not willing to take personal responsibility.
That's it. Because then you'd be like, well, you know, it's this and it's the World Economic Forum, and it's like, do you realize that you fighting against that, you're giving them energy? That's straight up how it works. Every time you go and you start slandering and pointing the finger and blaming these organizations, you essentially, this is not even my opinion, this is a fact now, 1 + 1 = 2 fact, you give this organization energy. You feed it. It siphons off of you. So again, the concept with this is, if everybody in the world stopped doing the finger pointing, they essentially would not be giving gas to these organizations, and then they would be disintegrating because they need you as a player to be an extra in their movie. So the stars in the movie are the people at the high levels. Those are the stars in the movie. You're not the star in the movie. If you go play their game, you don't get to be a star in that movie. Sorry. You just get to be a little walk-on or an extra a few times here and there, maybe sipping coffee in the background. That's all you get to be. No one's going to hear you. No one's going to know who you are. You can go shout from the rooftops. You can go protest all you want. You know, especially this information. You know, as if you're a decoder, I mean, you go and try to start telling somebody on the street, like, yeah, this number means, like, what the hell you're in la la land.
No, I can imagine it. Like, after some people listen to one of my live streams, I could just picture somebody going to the bar and like seeing some girl, and they're like, "Hey, did you know that like the mercury = 23?" And just watching her be like, "What'd you just say, boy?"
Yeah. Yeah, they just, you can't, to try to go and explain the information from my perspective and your perspective, Jordan, to somebody who's a Mr. Smith, who's heavily involved in politics. And like, I see people, like I got friends that, you know, I used to hang out with, and they're, one friend in particular, heavily involved in politics. And I try to say just subtly, there's no such thing as election. These people are chosen, they're part of the script. Doesn't matter. You think this, and then they don't get it. Because they're not in the space. It's like, you know, trying to teach trigonometry to someone who's just learned 3 × 3 = 9. You're not going to do it, man. They're going to look at you like, what? Yeah, you're not. Somebody, you know, if you don't know the foreign language in the country you live in, and they talk to you, good luck trying to communicate with them. I mean, thank God we have the translators now, but it's like someone trying to speak French to you. You don't know French, and they're talking to you in French.
You brought up such a great point. I mean, I think this like God of War energy is what permeates through the average truth seeker as well. And I don't consider myself or anyone who follows my worth truth seekers. I don't think there's anything to seek. I think you just remember, you know, you're wiping away the amnesia, and you get to that inner knowing. Yeah. But the bigger point here is that, you know, there's really nothing to find, you know, like it's all there, and it's all there through you just realizing the way you interact with everything that's happening around you. And when you start to actually figure out a way to leverage on all the things that are around you as an opportunity, rather than something to point fingers at or to judge, you know, you could extrapolate a lot from all of that. You become, you know, you become Ra. Like, that's why Ra is the falcon. You want to be the falcon, be the one with the bird's eye view of society. Just kind of like fly above it, man. Fly above it. See
Yep.
what it's about. See what it is. See why it was created that way. Why does the architect design it as such? There's a necessity for jobs. There's a necessity for taxes. There's a necessity for money. If you think there isn't, then you need to imagine what you would be if you were the one in control of this. If you were the Wizard of Oz, how would you do it? You think you would do it any better? No, because the people will eventually will show who they are. And when the people show who they are, which, you know, you could call them NPCs or whatever, when they show who they are, you as the architect are going to go, shit, I need to give these people something to fucking do. Because if they don't, what are they going to do? They have no ability to create. They have no desire they need to be led because they want to be led.
They want to be led.
Designed to be led.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay?
That's it.
So I tell people all the time, you know, you want to shit on people who are like these elites or whatever, but if you were in their position, actually another thing is if I gave you 10 people to talk to and 9 of them were just random people like out of, you know, middle of nowhere, Montana, Kentucky, just like a gas station attendant, a barista at a coffee shop, and then I gave you somebody like Aleister Crowley, I bet the people in my group would rather talk to Crowley because he has something that you could actually learn.
Yeah.
He will apply wisdom into, and I had a person who mentored me into that way of thinking. Because I was once like that god of war who wanted to win the argument and wanted to debate and wanted to like kind of walk away this scholarly winner of the conversation, and I'm no longer such. But it took this conversation that I had with an individual who said to me exactly what I just told you. You know, if I had a panel of people to select, me, the version of me right now, would be looking to Crowley over I would be looking at 90% of the people that I met today.
Yeah.
Just because where I'm at right now is interested in the ether. I'm interested in mythologies. I'm interested in what was this ancient Egyptian civilization all about? What is magic? What is alchemy? How is it practical? What's the utility of it? I don't give a fuck about Joe Biden.
Yep.
So if I had the panel of 9 people, they're going to want to talk to me about Kanye West and fucking whatever. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about Stranger Things. Like, I want to learn. I want to like expand. I want to grow. I'm here for a reason, and I can't even control it. It's like it's like my lungs breathing in air. I just have this desire and yearning for more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Luckily, I was gifted with the ability to create with music. Because if I didn't have music, I would only be caring about truth and learning. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But with music, I could really tap into something that is like, woof. You know, and if there's anything I could say that I don't know how everyone will feel about this, nor do I really, worry about that. But the world will not change from how smart you are. The world will actually change from things like music. Because if we had music playing and everyone was dancing and everyone was just enjoying the moment, that's something that changes things. That's something that allows people to tap into this frequency that, you know, things like books could never do. And we already have agreed upon like knowledge and wisdom and all of this, you know, intellect being shared in books and documents and PDF files and fucking YouTube videos. But it's like, what makes you feel alive? And I think too many people in their journey of seeking this information, they get way too caught up in like, I know more than you. I know more than this person. And then they wear it on their sleeve like it's a fucking medal. But like, I know what it feels like to travel time while I'm playing music. Do you know what that feels like? You know, and like when you talk to somebody else who dances or somebody else who paints or somebody else who sculpts or whatever that, even cooking is an incredible art form where you get to kind of like zone out, you know what I mean? Totally. And it doesn't have to be one specific thing. It's just anything that allows you access to the present moment. But we look at like, you know, tribes, and what do tribes do? They have their meal, they cook their meal together, they enjoy it and eat it together. Then they play music and they dance.
Yep.
They're not sitting around watching fucking CNN or gambling at the casino.
Yeah, you had said something that sparked something, and I think the big takeaway here, a big one for me, is that the world is not going to change because you're smart. The world's going to change because you can create. And most people are not creators. They're complainers. They're whiners. They're windbags.
You just say windbags?
Windbags, yeah. That's from, I get that
Oh
from,
my God.
yeah, that's what,
You said it very beautifully one time. You said that people rather have things be
that's
created
Neville
for them. What
Goddard.
was
Yeah.
that?
Neville Goddard said people would rather have the things created than the power to create. That's Neville Goddard, right? And that's so true. We've seen, so the part of this great awakening, folks, coming up is like, you got to stop giving your shit to people, man, your energy. You got to stop trying to be Mr. Smith and go defend it. You need to take all that energy back and say, okay, now that I was spending 4 hours of my day gossiping and being a windbag and talking nonsensical crap, now that I have this 4 hours back, what am I constructively going to do with those? Well, put on your thinking cap. And this comes into who you are and why you're here. That's why decoding yourself is important. Your astrology charts, placement of the planets. This is your brand fused into you. You know, the owner's manual in your glove box. That's your mystical art platforms, your astrology, numerology. These are all going to be part of the new world that we move into. I promise you. These that have been shunned, because these layers in the dark age, the reason why the dark age demonizes and doesn't want you to have these layers is because the dark age is a fear-based age. It's fear-based. That's the primary driver for it. And so fear-based is that no one can be better than you. Everybody has to be a slave to you. So when you reverse that, when you unify and realize that everybody is you and you're everybody else, it completely changes the game of now you're not basing it on fear. If we're moving into the golden age, if that's what we're doing, if this age is changing and moving into that, and we're going to unify, well, then everybody will have an even playing field. But this is a preparation. This is a precursor to that time. And right now, if you're sick of the game, if you're kind of somebody who turns the TV on and you're like, oh God, the same old song and dance. It's just, it's like, if this doesn't work, that'll work. They're going to get you with this. It's dirty laundry. That's what they sell in the dark age. Dirty laundry. That's what gets people off. That's their fix. Heroin addicts, they got the needle. Cocaine, they got the straw. Well, with people that are addicted to dirty laundry, they got the news. That's their fix. That's what they feed off of, and they get fed off. It's like a little fishing line with a worm on it, and you bite into the worm. That's dirty laundry. Well, if you're here and you're like, I don't resonate with that anymore, well, welcome to the Great Awakening. Because it's going to take a group of people from an individual basis, yourself, to turn that stuff off and take that energy that you used to give out and go create something with it. Create something with it. Like Jordan, you're a musician. You create music. Okay, what can you do with that? Well, you could be somebody who makes records and goes on tour, and if that's what you want to do, it's something you want to do.
It's also, what does it do for me? Like, I think that's something that everyone needs to like clearly delineate. Like, we all need something in our life that makes you feel. Like, I literally will keep it as simple as that. Like, what is something that makes you feel?
Yeah.
Like, once you know what that is, like, that doesn't need to be something that's shared. Like, that is your independent secret society. It is your thing. It is your thing that allows you to express, and it just does it for you. You know what I mean? So for me, like, I haven't even gone out of my way to share any of my music. Mm-hmm. That shows you where I'm at with it. Like, it fulfills me. Yeah. I love it so much that it's like, I don't even really care too much about what people will react, So it's like, it just is what it is. Like, I figured out a way to have something in my life that matters so much, and it means so much to me, that any misery or negativity or finger pointing or blame game or any of that is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Purpose is when you tap into something that allows you this ability to walk in grace, mm-hmm. and to not really worry too much about the noise around you. I think you said so many perfectly beautiful, poetic things about this dark age and moving into the golden age, or whatever term you want to use. But one thing I would love to bring up to you, and I would like to hear how you feel about it, is I personally believe that the moving of ages happens due to the personal experiences of the individuals. I know that Jason talks about the Phoenix phenomenon almost as this external thing, like some event that happens, but I don't visualize it at all like that. I think it's us. It's the individual who decides, like, okay, it's time. and we as a collective come together in whatever coding system, whatever it is. Like, I believe I met you for a purpose, for a reason. Okay. I also believe that you're going to take part in the unveiling of what this is. And I know I am, and I know that everyone I connect with also are. When people think of the apocalypse as this externalized thing, like it's going to be like a dragon in the sky or a fucking comet or whatever, I don't align with that at all. I think I'm the reason why this world comes to a conclusion. Like, I literally feel that. And what I mean by that is the 3D, the physical, the physiological component of it gets stripped away because I decided. And I know that really doesn't align with everyone, because people they're going to go, water's above, thinks he's no. We are all an extension of each other. We operate at a very specific frequency. Like Logan just said, if you went to a place and you started talking about whatever it is that we're talking about today, the average person will look at you like you had 5 heads. So please, go from the mind to the heart and hear where I'm at with this. Us as a very specific collective, you could tap on whatever title you'd like, chosen, errant, as Jason says. I don't really care. But I know what I'm here to do. And every time I tap into that more, and it's not about blaming or waiting for some fucking thing to happen, when I really just tap into what it is, I notice, like, oh my goodness, like, I'm part of that ending. Like, I am playing a role in that moment. And it's not like it takes this responsibility or anything. It's just this being. It's like this mode of operation. Yeah. And that is really where I'm at. Like, I personally think the apocalypse is when we become the most genuine, compassionate, loving version that we've ever been. Yep. So much so that this fear-based shit that's happening outside of us can't even function anymore. Like, what Logan said was so important. If all of us stopped thinking about politics, it wouldn't exist. Elections and voting wouldn't exist. If we stopped sending our kids to school, the school wouldn't have children to teach. Do you see how this whole conversation me and Logan are having is adding up to where I'm aligned with this? Like, I just think that the apocalypse is when we all wake up to what we are. And I believe these superhero movies where you talked about Thanos and the good guys coming back, all that, like, they're giving us clues. They're giving us clues that it's a very small select group of people that kind of like bring this, that decide to close the curtain.
Yep. Yeah, so true, man. I think that it all starts with you as the individual. You listening to this, not me, not Jordan, not the group of people that you hang out with down the street. It starts with you. So can you honestly say, if you resonate with that, if you think it starts with you, and this is not being egotistical, I'm saying is that, can you honestly look at yourself in the mirror, look at your life and say, like, I love you. You're amazing. And you're firing on all cylinders. Have you detoxified? Are you really living out your best life right now? Because if you're not, and you're still Mr. Smith hanging out trying to fight against the system, it's still siphoning your energy, and you're never going to be the best level of yourself. You never will, because you're too busy giving your gas away. So you got to really just look at your own individual life. It starts with you. Can you honestly say that you're doing an exceptional layer? Are you living out an exceptional life right now? Are you being the best little devil that you can be, as I say? Are you being that? Can you say that honestly with integrity and authenticity, that you say, you know what, I show up, I'm constructive, I build, I create, I do, I am, therefore, I am the best version of myself. Are you doing that? Or do you have to, are you 50 pounds overweight? That's not showing up your best, folks. I hate to break it to you. All right. If you're 50 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, man, what are you doing? All of you right here listening right now, this is my truth. You should be at your ideal weight, period. You should not be 50, 100 pounds overweight. Okay. You shouldn't be there. All right. I'm not saying it's wrong to be there, but I'm saying is that you need to be at your ideal weight, your perfected weight, your perfected self. This is a time for you to perfect yourself. So if you need to get rid of 50 or 100 pounds, you know how much toxicity is in all that weight that you're carrying that's extra? that's probably weighing you down, that's got parasites, that's sucking your nutrients, and your frequency's not high. It can't be when you're like that. So step number 1 is to clean up your physical life. Get rid of your bad habits, your addictions.
So it's like putting filtered water in a cup that has like gum and dirt in it.
Yeah, how about never washing your cups?
With clean water, but yeah.
You could pour natural spring water in a cup and never wash it, and that natural spring water, you might as well throw it out the window. It's like drinking.
Well, Logan, now that you've brought this up, and I would like to ask you personally, do you feel like your awareness of health and how to treat your vessel was a big part of where you've come, in regards to the mental perspective? Like, do you feel like it was the gateway? Because you brought up being a bodybuilder, and I know you had you personally owned a gym, or you were a partner in a ownership with a gym. So I know that fitness and nutrition and dietitian and your nutritional coach you brought up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know you have such a background in that. Do you feel like you have conviction in this idea that the vessel is a necessary thing to kind of perfect and be aware of and make cleaner in order to level up or upgrade, as you said?
Absolutely. It has everything to do with that. It starts with the bodies of the temple. So yeah, I mean, my code, my script, my reality that I have said people, my scripted reality. Like, I've been in the healing space my whole life that I can remember. I mean, I went in the military right out of high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I went in the military. I didn't want to go to college because I didn't really like school. Went in the military, served during Desert Storm. And it was there at 19. At 16, I found weights. My dad had weights in the cellar. I started working out in front of my big mirror when I was a kid, 16. And then when I went into the military, 19, I had a gym at the base, started working out. And I've been working out since I was 19. And I'm 49 now, consistently. I mean, I've had a few breaks here and there, but like, I've been consistent working out. I've been an advocate. I've been part owner of a gym. And what I did in that gym, people loved me because I helped them. Because I genuinely, authentically want, you come in there and you ask me, hey, I'm sitting there and I'm having next thing I know, a 2-hour conversation goes by talking to somebody, trying to help them, right? Like trying to get them in a program, trying to get them from 50 pounds overweight to getting them down to their ideal weight. This has been my script, my code. And then it moves into the mind. Then I moved into personal development. Then I moved into the metaphysical and astrology, numerology, and the quantum realm, if you will, right? Getting into numbers and those bases. But it starts with the body, and it can start with the mind as well. There's no right or wrong way to detox from life, but you need to detox from life, folks. What does detoxing from life mean? It not only means detoxing from the food that we are naturally driven towards, the pizzas, the pastries, the cups, the cupcakes, the cookies, the potato chips, the things that we love. That feeds the little dragon inside of you. And then you have the dragon that wants the mental stuff, the stuff that will get your attention with your eyes and your ears. You need to detox from that as well. And that part of that is the mainstream. You need to detox from that. That's preparing you to what's coming down the pike, whatever that looks like. You owe it to yourself to do that. Even if we were in a freaking amazing society right now, even if the society was amazing, there was no apex predators, there was no, things that were happening on the world stage. Does that just give you the right to just be? Does that give you the excuse to say, "Wow, everything's cool. I think I'm just going to be a Homer Simpson and eat donuts all day"? It's like, I mean,
most people become like that because of that stuff.
No, totally.
Back before we had televisions, like everyone was fucking looking great.
Yeah,
like we didn't have diabetes and like colorectal cancer and all. Like it was very rare, especially diabetes.
Yeah, because you're moving in cycles.
Stop working. Jeez.
Yeah.
Like if you have diabetes, and like this is just like a plain fact, and I know it's hard for a lot of people because it's a very popular disease to have, if you even want to call it that. But if you have diabetes and your pancreas is barely operating, like having one of your vital organs barely operate is another way of saying that you're a zombie.
Yep.
You're like the Walking Dead. If you need exogenous insulin to even be. But yeah, wow. It's amazing to hear your story. And like, I'm so similar. Like a lot of this big, profound, truth came to me through the practice of fasting and changing the way that I consumed and changing the way that I used my body.
Huh. Yeah. Your journey's quite similar. I mean, just in a different format. You know, I mean, you've done a lot of fasting. You've done a lot of cleansing, and that's the name of the game, in my opinion. From being a fan of life.
Once you learn that you could, once you try it, like I did a 30-day juice fast, which I wouldn't recommend. Now that I've done it, I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm just saying I did it. Okay, and when I did it, I was smelling flowers from like a garden 4 blocks away. I was like, what the fuck? Holy moly.
Yeah.
Like I could hear, okay, so I do music, I'm a musician, and this is my life. I know I do YouTube, and a lot of people don't know this side of me, but when I was like 3 weeks deep on that juice fast, I was hearing tones and frequencies coming out of the music that I was mixing that I've never heard before. And I'm like, holy shit, I am unlocking access to sensory that I never even knew I had. And it was telling me that all of this fat, the subcutaneous, so a lot of what's going on inside of the normal foods we're eating is actually preventing us from access to the full spectrum of the frequency that we're able to perceive. And we're aware that the human eyes can only see a sliver of frequency. That's why when we take psychedelics, you know, we get a broader perspective. But when you could do this without psychedelics, and you could do this with watching your body transform and simultaneously feeling lighter, feeling better, you know, smelling better, seeing clearer than ever before, and hearing better, it just really changed the game for me. So even though it wasn't the thing that I would recommend everyone do, it was something that I tried. And when I moved through it, the takeaway was so much more than the physiological outcome. You know what I mean? And I think that's really the big thing to say about anyone who's maybe influenced by this conversation specifically that me and Logan are having, is don't try to change your way of consuming and the way you exercise your body because of vanity. Change it because of you becoming more in tune with what you're capable of on a vibrational perspective, because that's really where the gold is. You know, when you get 2 days deep into a dry fast, you unlock truth. You don't need the internet or books or any of that. You just start, like, you become calmer, you become a cleaner slate to accept frequency. Yeah. And this is really what the takeaway is. So I'm not here to tell people how to build muscle, even though I know how to build muscle, but I'm not really interested in that anymore. Now that I've gone through what I've gone through, I see it as like, there's a moment to reset and to enter a state of no consumption so that your body can really be pure. And when it becomes pure, I mean, the knowing that you're going to access is going to have utility. It's not just going to be like reading books. It's going to be way more than that. And what you will consume during that time period, if you're on a multiple day dry fast or a multiple day water fast, it will mean so much more to you, because you won't have so much digestive energy working. Like you know this very well. When you consume food, a majority of your energy goes towards actually digesting that food. Yep. So when you take that aspect away, you free up this whole new realm of energy that could actually be put to use in another way. And wow, you know, if you combine multiple things, if you combine doing a multiple day dry fast with being out in Mother Nature, and I mean, even if you don't wear a lot of clothes, don't wear shoes, get your feet in the dirt, get your feet in the grass, do a little sun gazing, do mudras, you know, all of that, you're going to notice like, holy shit, I never needed the internet to learn, because the true knowing comes to you in those moments. It comes to you when you're in your most pure state. Yep. The more pure you are, the more light you could accept.
Yeah, and not only that, I think the more pure you are, the more truths get revealed to you. The more accurate 1 + 1 = 2 truths, those will come to you. When you're toxified and your frequency is vibrating at a specific level that's on the lower side, you will end up receiving those signals. So if you want to receive the highest signals, you want to purify the body, you want to purify the mind, you need to detach, detox, do all the things that we've been talking about for the great reveal that's perhaps coming down the pike in this coming fall and winter. So anyway, Jordan, you want to kind of get into the wrap up of this? We're almost going for 2.5 hours. So maybe you want to wrap.
I didn't even notice the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine to go as long as you like. I freed up the night to hang out with you. So whatever happens. But I would actually like to know, you mentioned that you're currently in the process of doing a detox. And then you also mentioned simultaneously that Santos has been detoxing a lot lately as well. Is he joining you on that detox?
No. He's got his own protocol, which he really made it comical the other night, telling me like how much time he spends on doing this treatment and that and drinking this and all this prevention. And he's just like, God, and I was like, man, if you could not have to do that, imagine how much what would you be able to do at that time? And he's like, I know. And that's why he's like, this life is so crazy, and he realizes it's a game. We had a conversation after the podcast. We were walking down the street and he was telling me, he's like, I'm just, it's just a game, man. I get it, and I'm going to live out my best life and I'm going to do whatever makes me happy. Cause that's the thing is making yourself as happy as you can to raise your frequency. But so if you're overweight, you're unhappy, your frequency goes down. If you're depressed because you don't like your certain circumstances, your frequency goes down. And then guess what will happen? You will start to attract or resonate with more things on that same frequency. So when you're down and out and depressed and angry and stuff, you may start attracting the mainstream news and you may start looking at it. You may have a friend that'll call you up and say, hey, did you hear about that? And because you're pissed off and angry, you may resonate more with their conversation and you may go on to the news station and you may watch it and you'll be like, yeah, and then you may get right back into the Mr. Smith in the game again. You see, these are the layers of consciousness that you need to be aware of. And the more you're awake, the more you're going to tap into frequencies that are on the realms that we've been talking about here. And again, these are just my opinions and Jordan's opinions. You got to make the truth your own, but we're talking about frequency. Life is just all about, semantics and, sound frequency. And it's all about, electricity and magnetism. That's really what it boils down to in this reality.
And there's another side to getting into exercise and fasting and changing up your protocol of how you consume. And some people become quite obsessed in it. Like, I actually remember what it was like to get more into learning about detox and fasting. And there's a whole community that just takes it way too far. So truth is simple. Wisdom is simple. And the more complicated shit starts to get, that's really a sign for you to ask yourself, like, does this resonate with me? Because I've seen people's protocols on detoxes and all of that. And it becomes like this, 3 Michelin star menu of how to live. And I'm like, geez, man, like, the less you do, the more proficient it is. Like, if you want to clear up the mind, you stop thinking. We call that meditation, perhaps. If you want to, maybe get some excess air out of your body and you want to like have that aspect of you become a little lighter, you practice pranayama. If you want to, lighten your body, you consume less. So there's a lot of complexity that starts to come into the realms of exercise routines. You probably know this, where it's like people start doing this crazy complex stuff and the results become negligible at a point. And what's most important is just you doing and not letting your mind get in the way. And I've seen plenty of people that start getting into ways of consuming and then they're like fructarian and they're taking all these supplements and they're doing all this extra shit and they're losing their teeth and hair. Yeah. And it's like, come on, like you're not being balanced.
Yep.
So it's very important that people, when they come across my work specifically, whenever I talk about food and hear my truths about food or exercise, I'm always going with the most simple approach. And I've learned that always yields the greatest result because that's the way the whole reality works anyways. Like, even the creation of people doesn't require a really complex procedure.
Yeah.
the most important form of alchemy we've ever watched or ever experienced. That's why we're all here. It doesn't need to be like a 3-hour-long porno movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't make your exercise routine or the way you eat or the way you diet or whatever become this insanity. Like, and that's really a piece of wisdom that I think some people could take away just from my experience, because I've watched and experienced it all, where I've seen people get into the tinctures and start trying these detoxes of each individual organ. They're like, I'm going to do a liver detox and a kidney detox. It's like, Jesus Christ. The human body is an organism. It operates as one. You don't want to try to detox one specific organ. Okay. It's a beautiful symphony. You want to look at it like a symphony. You don't just want to mute out the entire symphony and only look at the violin player.
Yeah. Well,
and there's no song.
Yeah.
And I get why people like to go down the rabbit hole of that. And it's fine. Like, there is a utility for a specific detox. I get it. But ultimately what provides you balance and health is you looking at the holistic approach.
Yeah. Well, it definitely is systematic. It's a whole thing. I mean, if you want to detox, just stop eating. I mean, that's pretty much the easiest way to create the most beautiful symphony in your body. Stop eating, stop whatever you're putting in your mouth, stop doing it. Stop doing that for a little bit and see what happens.
That's the simplest thing you could possibly do, right?
Simplest thing you can possibly do. And then the same thing goes with your external, like with what you see. If you want to detox from the world, close your eyes, close your ears. Just it's that simple. Go put yourself in a box for a while. And
in Buddhism, right? They show you like the monkey who like closes its eyes, closes its ears, closes
see no
its
evil,
mouth.
hear
like,
no evil.
Yep. That's facts, man. That's so
facts.
profound.
Yeah, that's totally facts. So that's, if you want to prepare for this upcoming reset, what's coming down the pike, ladies and gentlemen, however we want to spin it, everything we've been talking about from the financial side of it. Are we having a financial reset? Are we having food shortages? Or, all these things you ain't going to change it, folks. It's already in motion. It's already part of the script. The only thing that you can, let me just be very crystal clear. You are not going to change what's coming. So you might as well get over it. The only thing that you can do is change your life. That's it. So you might as well take all the energy that you think you have, that you've been putting into what you're trying to control on the external, on the conscious level, collective, and stop doing that garbage and focus on you. Focus on you, changing you, and leveling up with your life. That is what's going to give you the best result possible. And when you do that, when your frequency goes up, everybody around you is going to feel it. I promise you, everybody's going to, and anybody that gives you, you're like, wow, they're resisting it. Well, that's because now your frequency goes up and theirs stays down at the lower levels, and now they don't resonate with you anymore. So they're like, I don't like this version of you. Well, because you're not this, you've shed layers. Part of this apocalypse, part of this great unveiling, whatever's coming down the pike. Folks, we're going to be, I think we're going to see and hear a lot of things that are going to be revealed on the world stage. There could be some things that people are really going to get excited about. I'm just going to suggest, don't give your energy to it. This is not a time to get excited when the great reveal happens. Well, I think the great reveals have already been delivered to us through many of the great podcasters and decoders out there. I think we've already kind of been doing that work for years now, right? You're seeing it. And so when you start to see some of the things that they are putting out in their movie, you got to be very cautious. You got to be very cautious on what's going to happen in their movie. Because remember, you're an extra in their movie, not a star. You'll never be a star in their movie. It's just not going to happen. Even if you're a Hollywood actor, you're still, I mean, even though you're a star in that movie, you're not running Hollywood. There's like an energy that runs the entire Hollywood.
That's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Like De Niro and DiCaprio know that this is like, they're just players,
yep.
Like, and they've signed up for some beast. And like, as long as you play that game, like you're caught up in it. Yeah, you get currency, you get like an infinity pool or whatever, but it comes at a cost. Yep. Like that's the one thing about like this forum of people here, and I spoke about it recently in one of my pieces of work where I was saying how a lot of these people who we think are powerful, who are celebrity, who are famous or whatever, they actually have no freedom. Yep. Because they've signed contracts where they have to abide by a script.
Yep.
And the script that you're abiding by is a natural script. It's your natural code, and that's a beautiful thing. And that's really where the concept of selling your soul comes into play. And I love the work that you do, Logan, because I know you've kind of been the main star in pushing this idea of the organic code. And I don't even like putting it in that term. I just like thinking of it as the code. And it really resonates with me on a deep level. And it aligns with a lot of the feelings that I've had about my personal journey and a lot about the people who I've met who are incredible people. Really your work solidifies that.
Thanks, brother.
I've found no issue with it whatsoever. And I know why some people would like to fight it, because they want to feel like they have control and they want to feel like there's some boogeyman out there that's pushing the buttons on what's going on. I get that. I know why people would like that, but take some fucking ownership, guys.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing life, you're doing life. And if you want to believe that there's somebody up there, the puppet master, kind of like pushing, you or whatever, you're forgetting the angels. You're forgetting the higher self. You're forgetting this aspect of you that really wants the best for you. and wants you to learn through this darkness. All of this darkness that you believe is lies and deceit and deception, etc., that's actually a teacher. That's an opportunity. That's your lesson. Like I said before, the idea of 9/11 or whatever it is, that was the moment where you finally woke up. How could you be mad at that? How could you actually be upset with that? I mean, I'll speak for myself. I actually I lived in New York at the time. I was living in Brooklyn, New York during 9/11. So I don't want people to take this in a way of me saying that I don't feel for the lost lives. I'll give a personal story, actually. So I was really close friends with a kid.
Keep talking, Jordan. I got to use the bathroom real quick, so keep talking.
Yeah. So I was really close with a kid who he had about 13 siblings. It was like 12 or 13. Huge family, Polish family, and his father was a firefighter, and his father actually died in 9/11. And when I learned of the truth of what that was and that whole experience, I had this like deep hatred, because I kept comparing it to this personal experience where I was saying, like, how could the fucking government, how could this apex predator do this to somebody and these people and allow this sacrifice to happen? So I don't want people to get twisted in the words and think that I am looking at it like it's fully positive. It is what it is. I can't push the rewind button on reality, right? But what I can do with my perspective and what I've experienced is look at it as an opportunity where I've had the ability to connect with so many people due to this platform, which I'm very grateful to have. And I've asked, so many people, like, what was the moment? What was your red pill moment? What was the moment that got you to finally like turn the light on? And a majority say 9/11. And the people that didn't say 9/11, they said the C word, the pandemic. So it's telling me that there's an important aspect to this. It's that this darkness, this deceit, these lies, this fraudulent, whatever it is, these black swans, the false flags, they're actually there as your greatest moments. They were there for you to actually kind of like snap out of it. And ultimately, how could we look back at that and be mad? How could we look back at that and have a negative feeling? It's like, I personally don't see how we could. But it would require somebody to break it down that way. And I think very few people want to break it down that way because they want to look at it through the lenses of the blame game. They want to look at it through the lenses of, I need to point fingers at this institution and that institution and the World Health Organization and Fauci and whatever, because that's what weak people do. Weak people point fingers. People with strength see opportunities. And this is just one of those times where whatever is going on right now, like, there will need to be personal responsibility taken for those that are in the know, and there will be a perpetuation of finger pointing for those that are not willing to take that quantum leap. And I believe one of the things we talked about in my last live stream was that Fool card in tarot, and I would love for Logan to tell me a little bit about his perspective on that before we wrap this up. But that's really where I've moved on to. I've moved on to this place where it's great to be the magician, it's great to meet the empress, it's great to meet all these characters and to see where the sun and the moon and the constellations and all of that plays its role. But who am I? I believe I'm the fool. I'm the one that's out there living this life, knowing of the game, but I'm gonna have fun while I'm doing it. I'm gonna access the now moment while I'm doing it. I'm gonna live while most around me exist. And this word has been demonized and turned into a negative thing, being a fool, but I see it as a liberation. It's a beautiful liberation of not wanting to fight over what the truth is, actually just owning my truth and walking in grace, with that awareness. I'm not sure if Logan's back yet.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, great.
Thanks for holding the fort down. Whew, I was like holding it for like 3.5 hours. That was like a record urination.
That's what happened to me before.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, oh man, I'll either end this early or have to go.
Yeah. So I'm ready to go for another 2 hours, but I know we won't. But anyway, the Fool. It's interesting with the Fool card because it's card 0, and some people observe it as card 22. But the big takeaway is that at 32 degrees Celsius, water freezes, or Fahrenheit, excuse me. And if you convert that into Celsius, it's 0 degrees. And that's the Fool card. And so the whole aspect of this is at 33 degrees, water turns to liquid, and that's transmutation of energy. But 32 is it freezes and it turns into the Fool. So you get trapped under ice. You become the Fool. You become the Alpha and the Omega. And that, it's really interesting because I'm watching some of the Westworld show on HBO for fun, breaking it down, and what a ride that show's given. The original movie coming out in 1973, and 73 is tied to our blood's pH. But the Westworld creator.
I've never watched that, by the way.
Okay, yeah, good? It's really good. So the creator of Westworld, the actor, this is how scripted this reality is. Now, again, are these people, they consciously aware of this, or are they just following the script, like I say, and mankind's being used? But here we go, really quickly. Westworld, the creator of the Westworld, not the show, but in the show itself, is Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins is the actual creator of this Westworld, where mankind is. Is being used. Now, here's the kicker. Anthony Hopkins' birthday is December 31st. This birthday is the only birthday that has the Joker card attached to it, which is the Fool card. If you go read about my friend Sharon, who's a card reader, she's not trying to mock you or screw you over. She just taps into the code. She writes it out. You know what the title of the Joker card is? The Alpha and Omega. That's what the title of the Joker card is. So essentially, what is this saying with Westworld? You have they script Anthony Hopkins to be the creator of Westworld, and Westworld is where mankind is just playing out a script. They're playing out a movie. You're living in a movie. And they bring Anthony Hopkins in, and he's the Alpha and the Omega. Think about that, what I just say to you here. Okay, talk about it's just ridiculously scripted. And then, you have the Fool card. So the Fool, and the Fool is 0, 0 in numerology is 26, 26. Is tied to iron, and the 55 and time travel, and the Yod He Vav He as well, the tetragrammaton. It's tied to our blood. So the Fool's tied to our blood. So is what really what happens here, and I don't want to get too off topic, but is it just whatever runs this reality is like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go be Jordan for a while. And I'm going to go live through Jordan, and I'm going to speak through Jordan, and I'm going to tell the world how the world works through the eyes of Jordan. And I'm going to pick up a guitar because I want to play guitar. And, this guitar sounds good. I like the way this feels and sounds. So I want to go Jordan for a while. So are you being, vicariously used through a higher source? Am I? Did the architect or architects decide to come down and say, you know what, I'm going to come down and be Logan, and I'm going to create decode your reality. And I'm going to expose this, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to show you this and show you that. Or does it come down and become you as a person? Is that what the great reveal is going to be? Is that the great apocalypse is going to be? Is it we're living inside of this movie simulation, holographic universe, whatever, and we're living inside of a theater, and whatever created this reality? Think about it, man. Do you think it comes down and plays out characters? I mean, if you create a product, do you use that product? I think anybody who's Jordan, you're a music, you create music, right? Do you listen to your own songs, or you just write them and never listen to them again? Of course you freaking listen to them. Right? So anybody that creates something, you're going to utilize it. Well, the architect of this reality, why would it not want to come down here? I mean, all Greek mythology, Jupiter turning into the swan, and there's tons of stuff with Greek mythology.
That is why mythologies resonate with me
totally,
so well.
Man.
And you've probably heard in my work a lot, like I try to shift away from the negative speak on things like Saturn and Jupiter and whatever. Yeah. Because that's what the mainstream and even what a lot of truth, communities tend to do. They make it all about negative. And these mythologies aren't negative. They're teachers. They're there as an aspect of self. It's even like the Last Supper. Those 12, beings and the Jesus character, those are in my truth. Those are you. You're Judas. You just woke up to who Judas was, and that was the moment where you noticed you were betraying yourself from accessing truth. And we need to be transparent with ourselves for once. We notice that, if you're somebody who, like Logan brought up before, 50 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, well, Judas is winning right now.
Yeah, good point.
You just gotta take personal responsibility and kind of step back and stop separating yourself from all these great teachings. Me, even as a person who doesn't practice any religion, I still find a way to utilize it in my own reality. But I had a mushroom trip one time where I perceived this Last Supper experience as me being all the people at that table, me being the table itself, me being the food on the fucking table. I'm the wine that's being drank.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it for that thing, I was like, whoa, You know, like there is a part of me that would sell myself out. There is a part of myself that would betray me. There's a part of myself that has this immense amount of forgiveness as well.
Yeah.
How do I take this back to this new me, you know, and how do I use this? And wow, you know, what a takeaway. It really transformed the way that I handled people and the way that I dealt with people. It reduced the way that I would, you know, interact with people from a judgmental perspective. It brought so much to me. And really, like, I think the Abrahamic religions and those three popular books, they're there as like a manual, like a user manual.
Yeah.
But you just need to know how to operate that user manual, you know. And if you don't, because I'll say it like this, you know, when you get something new, like an appliance or a car or anything, you never look at the fucking user manual.
No.
You just plug it in you take it out of the box, you plug it in, and you don't look at that user manual until it's time to need it. You know, shit malfunction, it broke down, you need to troubleshoot it, and you're like, oh, I guess I'll go get that user manual now. Yeah. And now you get it. It's like, dude, that's what people are being taught, how to live their life through a user manual, being pushed to use it, but they're not even being told it's a user manual, like in a deeper sense, of course. And then what happens is they get to a place in their life where they're like in shambles or shit's fell apart, and now they're finally seeking user manuals, you know? Yep. This is why it's very popular for people who are on like death row or people who've committed some serious crime in prison. They become born again.
Yep.
This is exactly what I just explained is real, okay? Like people who are like serious pedophiles, child molesters, you know, serial killers, they're like, they want the user manual, but just super late, you know, after the act. And we're not here to judge or point any fingers. It is what it is, right? We're all coded the way we are. But to see forgiveness and all of that, and more importantly, if you're not that type of person, how do I take these pieces of text and apply them? And apply them in a way that is not religious. Apply it in a way that is actually you not being bound together to the masses, but being bound together to your tribe. Yep. Because that's what religion means anyway. Religare, it means to bind together. Yep. And what you're binding together to is this externalization of, you know, whatever's going on in society, behavior, essentially the way of behaving under systems, as opposed to you being a truly authentic and genuine self.
Yeah, re-legion. Re means to do again, and then legion is legion. Re-legion. So you're just attaching yourself back to the legion, that group that you just mentioned. So that's very, very significant there. So Jordan, as we wind down, I just wanted to throw this out to you, which I thought you'll get a kick out of this, and everybody here listening. So just a few days ago on Saturday night, I did my What's Your Question 39. You joined in a little bit. Thanks for your support on that. But at the end of the broadcast, as I typically do, not always, I do a collective card pull in tarot to kind of get to see what the cards say and what's coming down the pike for all of us. And it was just, you want to talk about being, you know, again, the architect to me is a stand-up comedian. So I pulled 3 cards, and the 3 cards were, the first one was the 8 of Wands. And the 8 of Wands, card number 30, is something's coming really quickly. Okay, so I was like, it was all in gear because I'm like, hey, I got let's talk about the apocalypse coming. So that was, and it was on people's minds, and you know what's coming down the pike for all of us. It was the 8 of Wands, and that card 30, is tied to the demiurge, and it means moving quickly. Something's going to be moving quickly. And the card that preceded that one was the King of Wands, card 36. And this King of Wands is the King of Clubs, which is the same card that was on the day of September 11th. Okay. And it's tied to the total lunar eclipse coming on November 7th and 8th. King of Clubs is there. And the last card out of the 3 was the Devil card, which is card 15. And the Devil sits on this block, and the block has 2 chains attached to a male and female. And I was like, and I had done a decode on a small one on blockchain technology. And there's the Devil sitting on the block with the chains attached to it. So, and here's the craziest thing of them all. When you add up the 8 of Wands, card 30, with the King of Wands, card 36, and you add the 15th, the Devil card, it equals 81. And what's today's date? 81. 8/1. So that's how in tune I am with the cards and the cards are with me. And let's talk about this apocalypse. What's coming down the pike? Well, the cards spoke that something's going to be moving very quickly, swiftly. And it will be ruled by the King of Wands, which is the king of the mind, king of the air. Okay? Essentially, it's the king that makes the decisions on what's going to happen, and then everything moves into form. And then you get the devil at the very end. And to me, it was to blockchain technology. And I think that's exactly what the cards were speaking to all of us and what's going to be coming down the pike. So you just got to get prepared, because no one here uses a Rand McNally map to get around anymore. Okay. You don't have a freaking portable 8-track player in your car. All right. You just don't. You use navigation and you have an MP3. Okay.
It's so great that you bring that up too, because there's so many people that are like, I'll never do that new thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. Well, I spoke about this recently. Like, I tried buying an iPhone 2G. I can't use that shit.
Can't use it. Yep.
I can't use it.
Yep.
There's no fucking
Can play music on it.
it'll work for.
Can play music on it.
I could use it as an MP3 player.
Yep.
But like, seriously though, like, all the technology that we're using today, we've slowly just accepted because it's become, all the things before it were outdated. Like, it's called planned product obsolescence.
Yep.
And it's not just done by a singular company, it's done by the collective. And it just is what it is.
Yep.
And instead of fighting it, instead of saying you won't do this and you won't do that, how about you just work on what you will do about it, That's really the big thing. Like, so many people spend so much time on this, like, what I won't do, but it's like, what will you do? Because when that time shows up, it's about action. It's not about you and your opinion, or, how detailed your Facebook comment is. A lot of people, they could get away with their truth on a Facebook comment, but when it comes to real life, they're a coward.
Yeah.
So real action doesn't need to be commented on the internet. It's just about doing. And whatever comes next regarding, blockchain or the future economy or whatever, it's about how you pivot out of it. Because while everyone is just sedentary and sedated and under a state of hypnosis, believe it or not, that's a huge amount of energy that you could actually take in and you could use for your benefit. And that's always how these big moments go. All the billionaires, all the most amount of wealthy people are created during a market crash. Why is that? Because a majority are losing everything and a small group of people are winning it. When one person loses, someone else wins. When other people are giving up their energy, the energy has to go somewhere. So remind yourself of that. Like, you're a receiver of energy, you're a receiver of prana. And when you tap into that now, you'll be very prepared tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. A lot of people don't want to be here anymore. I get that. Check out my exit decoded. We enter the game of life, we exit the game of life. Is that even possible? If you're a fan of Vedic astrology, you're going to tie that into the 21st Nakshatra, which is ruled by Saturn. So they enter the game, you enter time. And time is going to kill you eventually. It's going to get you. So this is not a time for you to again be fear-based. Like this unveiling, whatever is in store. This is time for you to prepare individually. This is a time to be selfish, to be honest with you, in my opinion. And not in a selfish where you're not a giver anymore, but it's a selfish where you take your power back and you are now, okay, I'm going to really be the actor in my movie kind of situation, and I would just highly encourage all of you to really take that on the deepest level possible. What can you do with that? What can you do with that? So anyways, well, Jordan, it's been a fun ride, man. I'm hungry. I'm going to make another one of my blended greens here. I'm on day 10 here. But it's always been an honor and a pleasure to join forces with you. Just because we share such similar spaces. And our next podcast, I would imagine, will be sometime in September, is going to be podcast number 10, and you get to pick the topic on that one. So I'm going to pass the baton on to you. You got plenty of time to think about it. But any closing remarks that you'd like to make before we end this transmission?
No, I think I already know what I want September to be about, and I told you
Okay.
on the last live stream you're doing. It's lead into gold,
Oh, that's right. Lead into
and
gold. That's
and
right.
we're gonna talk about it not physically,
Physically, yeah. Well, wait.
not physically.
You know
We're
what's
gonna
so
be
interesting?
focusing on it.
You know what's so
Mhm.
interesting is that we're probably going to have to do it when I get back here to Mexico, which will be right at the start of Rosh Hashanah.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I've
Oh
actually
my God. See what I was
I've
saying?
worked on
Divine
my
timing.
yeah, I've worked on my schedule accordingly because I'm coming out with a new membership over on Patreon, which will be for group coaching. So
Nice.
that'll be kicking off in September, and that'll be yeah, it'll be focused on all the things we've been talking about today. You know, like really focused on that. Even the nutrition and dietary perspective of things. So
Cool.
that's gonna definitely make my schedule a little interesting. But I would love to make a podcast with you around Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
That'd really be perfect because we've been talking about it for so long. Wow. I'm at the point where I'm just like ready for it to be over. I'm like, fucking just give it to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of people are just like, they really are just, can we just get on with the show here? And
Yeah.
you know,
I know, and it's weird, right? Like it's weird to perceive the future as a part of what's happening in the now and what's, you know, and again, it's just another trap of the apex predator and how they keep it all. So even when you have this awareness and this you know, understanding of time from a different calendrical system than what we're used to, you know, it's not the most fun. There's always an aspect of it that kind of keeps you feeling heavy and again, like all of us kind of just who are aware of what I've been speaking about with the Shemitah and the 7-year cycle and all of that, I believe most of us are just like, let's get it over with.
Yep.
You know, like,
Yep.
let's just move on.
Let's just move on. Yeah. Looking.
Because it's the best opportunity of all time.
It is the
like,
best
really,
opportunity of all time, man. The most exciting time to be alive right now, probably in the history of mankind, in this age, anyways. Right now, folks, you're in it, man. So
100%,
Yep.
100%, and that's a perfect way to end it. You know, like really, what's to come, whatever it is, I am stoked.
Yeah.
I'm like super excited.
Totally.
You know, like, and I feel like, you know, Luke is turning into Yoda.
Yep.
That's really what it's all about. Like, I'm at that point where I'm really excited. I know I have a beautiful community. I'm super grateful for all the people that follow my work, and especially the people that have come over from your channel. And it's a really nice symbiotic relationship. And these tribes that are coming together, you know, not being so fear-based and tapping into an energy that is boundless. I mean, what better time is there to be alive?
Totally. This is the time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you really resonated with this podcast. Jordan, my name is Logan. For Jordan, I'm going to end this where we started it. A cover of the great song, You Can't Get What You Want, but You Get What You Need by the great band, the Rolling Stones. What the best song, I think, to really start and finish this. Let's talk about the apocalypse, because folks, just detach, because you may not get what you want. Okay? You can't always get what you want. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for podcast number 9. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality, Jordan from Waters Above Crypto. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you later.
You just might find you get what you need. I went down to the Chelsea drugstore to get your prescription filled. I was standing in line with Mr. Jimmy, and man, did he look pretty ill. We decided that we would have a soda, my favorite flavor, cherry red. I sung my song to Mr. Jimmy, and he said one word to me, and that was dead. Yeah, and now you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. Now you can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need.